This whole thing, a diplomat.
We're saying that we don't want to participate because of like COVID or something. Is that what it is?
No, like we're saying we're not participating because we don't like the way they treat their citizens.
Yes.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was like a COVID type thing.
It's a diplomatic boycott.
It's in China.
Yeah.
Oh,
Beijing.
Well,
am I good?
You're good.
Am I in focus?
This is good. I'm good.
How's my hair?
Ready to roll? Looks sexy. Sexy time.
I'm gonna get rid of this.
That's my dick.
Hold my dude.
Highlights of the news. Traffic accident. Beaver County man being held for murder.
What's going on, y'all? You're tuning in to the highest rated, most listened to podcast to ever grace the airwaves, and you're a better person for listening to us. All right, maybe not, but you're really going to enjoy it anyways. This is Made to Motivate podcast, and we'll be talking social media hot topics, pop culture news, the greatest in movies and music, and all things sports. Make sure you're following us on social media at Made to Motivate podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and you can watch the show on our YouTube. Thanks for tuning in, and with that being said, let's get this show started.
It's good. It's good. Good. It's good.
You good over there? Like a cat trying to lap up milk.
Yeah.
Like
dude,
cold, there's no substitute for cold beer, but like those tingles you get on your tongue because it's so cold, I could do without that.
Cold beer.
Mhm.
What is going on, y'all? Made to Motivate podcast, season 5, episode 11. We're back. I think this is like our longest episode streak of all time, maybe.
Definitely
6
this year.
or 7 in a row, maybe at this point. This is your host, Ryan Weiss. I'm joined, as always, by Christopher, the Film Freak Kessinger.
With my Christmas sweater, cowboy style.
Very nice, very
Yep.
nice.
Yep.
Festive.
Yep.
Back once again, 5th or 6th time, I guess. Daniel, the shoe guy, Sandman.
Is it
it's
6
6,
now?
yeah.
I think it's 6 in a row now. So, yeah.
Dan is catching up to Jesse at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's this chair is starting to like
Got your
fit
butt
my-
imprint now?
My butt really good.
You like widened it out a little bit from Jesse.
Yeah.
You guys watching this are really going to be thrown for a loop when you catch up to this episode.
Wow. I'm real caught up, you fuck faces.
I'm
all-
going to keep teasing you until
We're
you
all the way
actually-
into October. We're up to date on all audios. I'm about 4 episodes or so behind on video, but we're getting caught up. We're jumping up in views, listens, subscribers, all around good stuff. So thank you all for watching and listening. We appreciate it.
Oh, by the way, what's that guy's name? Your friend Merkel? Merkel.
Oh, who are you talking about? You were gonna shout
gotta
him
go
out. Shoot, yeah, we had a nice comment from someone that I know from school, and he shouted out both the podcast and the Chris's page. Markle Merritt.
Markle Merritt. Yeah.
Markle Merritt. Yeah.
So I want to say thank you to Markle. Super kind comment out of nowhere. I'm not friends with this guy. Ryan is. Sent me a very nice comment, and just want to say thank you, and we appreciate you listening.
Yeah. So thank you very much, sir. He actually will message me on occasion and say, when's your episode coming out? Or are you guys gonna talk about this on an episode? Because he follows the show and listens. So he's involved. You can tell he's someone that actually listens because he'll know what we're talking about or like what's coming up. So yeah, much appreciated, man. Thanks for tuning in. Any of those nice comments, please. We always like the feedback, reviews on the page, leave a comment on the episode, YouTube, whatever it might be. Plugs us into the algorithm. You know, the more people that comment, like, share, all that kind of thing, it just helps more people see the show and help us grow our audience continually year over year, season over season. So, but yeah, we're back. Another episode. What's going on with you, gents? Anything new, exciting, sad, awful? Didn't do anything?
Well, I wouldn't say I didn't do anything. My weekend was fucking packed this
Yeah?
weekend. We had our Winter Warfare tournament first round, to which Dan Sandmann is going once again to the finals. Has a chance to win 3 tournaments in 1 year. Unprecedented. I mean, hell, 2 is unprecedented. 3 is just astronomical. But I was there Friday night. I was there for 2 hours for his group. And then on Saturday was there at the Brighton early when they opened from 12 to 8 o'clock at night. Actually, we were probably there about 8:15. They closed and we were the last group through.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a long day and I couldn't get anything to drink in between because they closed the fucking bar down at 4
I was
o'clock
gonna
in
ask
the
you.
afternoon.
Damn. I was just gonna shout them out too until that comment.
Well, I mean, it's a good place, and I give them credit because they let me go through. They didn't give me shit for it. Nobody hassled me about it. There was even another woman who took over after your guys' group.
Yeah.
And they didn't hassle me. I guess they must have told each other like, hey, he's with them, and they're more than paying today. So yeah, I did that. Also my Christmas shopping, this guy's gift here was the last fucking holdup that I had for about 2 weeks.
This guy.
I was waiting for it to come in, and finally it came on Thursday of last week.
Yeah.
About 2 weeks late. So
sex toys are on back order right now.
Dude, it's so rough, man. It's so rough. And then naturally I had to try it out first just to make sure that it works. So
quality control.
Yeah.
Understandable.
I'm gonna clean it. But that's
all right.
That's
Don't worry about it.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. Alien Vacation. If you guys haven't been, they're not
Pretty
a
cool
sponsor,
place.
but they're more than welcome to sponsor the show. We sponsor the tournament there. So, but yeah, if you haven't been, check it out. It's in Medina. Indoor 3D glow in the dark, really intricate like course design. The murals and stuff that they have on those walls, like if you really take the time to look at them, I mean, it's a really dope.
Detailed and themed.
Yeah.
Each hole is a different theme, and they kind of go from one landscape into the next.
Yeah.
It plays really well for an indoor place.
And it's right next door to Castle Noel, which is a big Christmas museum.
Yep.
So,
And you got a high voltage golf carts right nearby, or go-karting nearby. The Foundry
I still have yet to
is
do
right
that.
there.
me too.
We got to go out there. High voltage is one of my favorite. I'd love for them to sponsor us. We got to do a podcast outing. But yeah, check that place out if you haven't been. Daniel,
Yes.
other than winning the tournament, going on to your third finals in a
I
row.
haven't won it yet.
Well, whatever.
That's what he says.
What
Foregone
else is
conclusion.
what else is new other than mini golf?
Man, I haven't done a whole lot this week. Got some Christmas shopping done. My family's like the hardest to buy for.
I know.
It's as you get older, it's like you want to focus more on like the little kids, the nieces and nephews.
And they're easy.
Yeah, they're easy. Just get them anything.
Yeah, if it
No,
lights
they're-
up or makes noise.
Yeah, they're fine with it. Went and saw Ghostbusters with Ryan the other night.
So you both
Last
have
night.
seen. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's good.
wait till you see the footage of him crying. It's great,
Fuck off.
dude. Yeah, I heard him sniffling over there.
And it was probably like the opening to like Universal. Oh, that logo is so
Guys are
beautiful.
dicks.
I'm trying to think what else I did.
Was that
Been
exciting?
working on my car, trying to get that gas tank out.
Yeah.
That's been the worst.
Yeah, to get the new
Experience ever.
Detroit one on there.
Yeah, survived Detroit. Now I busted knuckles, bloody fingers.
It was just in his driveway.
That was before I got out of bed.
Jeez.
Yeah, what about you, Ryan?
Not much. Golf didn't make it through, unfortunately.
You had it right there.
I was doing good. It just like the summer league last hole of the course fucked me up. I felt real confident too. I mean, I was way ahead after the first 19 holes. I was up 5 strokes, and I just had a really rough second half. So unfortunately, I'm not going, but saved myself $20 and some drive time. So I don't have to go and lose in the second round.
I didn't even think Al played that great. Like when you look at like the numbers, like how everybody else is, the other 5, it's like 91 and under, and he's a 96. There's people that shot like a 92 and didn't make it.
Yeah, it's wild the way that it works out, just because
He's that
it's
group.
not overall score, you know, but by group.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so did the mini golf thing. Sadly, not moving on from that. Saw Ghostbusters. Loved it. Outside of that, I've been trying to do Christmas stuff too. Trying to do Christmas shopping. I really want to go to Hartville Market.
Oh,
I really want to try and do majority of my gifts local. So I'm going to go there probably this week or weekend and spend a good amount of time there just looking around.
That's cool.
And trying to find a gift for everyone that's locally made or whatever. So trying to be ahead of the game and not wait to the last minute like I normally do, which really this year you can't, because I mean, I've been at Target looking and like the shelves are empty.
There.
Oh, I know. I was there the other day. Yeah, and the movie listings are fucking bare.
Toy
So,
section's wiped.
At this point, if it's this bad this early on, if I wait till Christmas Eve like I normally do, I'm gonna be really fucked. So, but I'm trying to go different. Normally, I try and do local stuff, or I try and do like homemade stuff. I went out in my garage on Sunday And I was like, you know what, maybe I'm gonna try and do a couple handmade gifts. It was so fucking cold. I was out there for like 5 minutes and I was like, nope, I'm not doing it. I'll go buy other people's handmade gifts because I just can't. It's too cold. I should have planned ahead of time, but
Were you out there today, man? By any chance?
it's fucking freezing.
Dude, today was brutal. I told Dan I almost lost a thumb today.
Really? Just from the
Seriously.
cold?
Well, because I had a frostbite on it. And I
Jesus.
realized when I was out there, and I had gloves on too.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't move. Like it was stiff and I couldn't like move it
Yeah.
at all. So I ran inside real fast, put it right underneath the hot water,
Yeah.
boiling water that I could feel on the rest of my hand, but not on my thumb.
Jesus, bro.
Yeah.
That's not good for mini golfing.
Well,
You need your thumb.
I'm not in it.
Yeah, you
So-
never. You might be back sooner than later. Yeah, that's it though. Nothing super. Winters suck. I mean, there's not really much exciting to talk about.
Fucking
Well,
hate it.
we got mini golf winter to look forward to for a short period of time, and we'll have pool
That's
coming up
it.
here soon, and then
Hopefully.
it's really it, you know. And then we got to wait it out till spring. So then we have a lot of fun things going on. What are you guys excited about? What do you want to start off with? We have a
Real
pretty
quick.
solid show
I
today.
jerked last
You got
week.
one thing you want to talk about?
Yeah, well, it's just with Chris.
Okay, go ahead.
Scene 75. What time? Like, I know they open at 3 tomorrow. What time are you getting out there?
I gotta work obviously, and then I'm gonna go home, get a shower. I'll probably get out there. I kind of want to play it after you guys are done.
Really?
Like I want to play it myself. I don't know. We said what was the game time? 6:30 tomorrow. So I'm gonna 6:30 for
Yeah.
that and 6 on Saturday. I'll get out there probably about 6.
I was going to try to get up there early and
Practice.
practice around because I've never been up there.
I'd like to play it definitely while I'm there because I've never been there.
Alicia might meet me up there after she gets off of school.
She'll find a dick somewhere on that course, I'm sure. That's our thing. She finds dicks everywhere.
She's a
Yeah,
dick,
she
she's a dick
had
connoisseur.
she had to pull her tag off of her that post. She's like, I don't know if I want to be recognized as this and
As the dick
school
connoisseur?
and everything.
She removed her tag. Now I gotta see.
She removed the
It's a
tag.
friends only post, I think, right? Or it was in the mini golf post, wasn't it?
No, I think he posted.
Oh,
I think
Right,
it's
on
still
his-
on there.
yeah. I mean, she points out the dicks.
Because I erase posts off of our page, like the golf page, every once in a while. Because I'm like, it's getting too cluttered. I want to like clear it
Yeah.
out. I keep the memes on there because those
Yeah.
are great. But like, if you say like or Brad says Ryan sucks and all that, I erased all that shit.
Yeah. I mean, there's no point in
Yeah,
spreading
she's
fake
like,
news.
I don't want to be recognized as the penis finder. Like just with work. That's all she was
Oh,
like
I don't think
concerned
there's
about.
anything inappropriate about that.
I'll put myself on there from
Point-
now on.
As long as she's
Point
a
out-
teacher
no,
with
you
an
could
OnlyFans.
like just don't tag her. That's what I
Oh,
think
gotcha.
because she'll see it
I'll be
even
the one
without
that
the
goes.
tag. But she's like, you know, like besides me pointing at penises, that's a good picture of me.
Oh my
Like, yeah,
God.
Women.
just put like little butterflies or something on top of the dicks.
Jesus. All right, guys, we're gonna start with sports. Enough
Sports.
dick talk.
Swung on, line to deep left field. It is.
Jesse.
45, 40. Run, William, run. 20, 15.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. LeBron James with the.
This is locker room
We just
talk.
need to have Jesse voice it, and I'll just replace the sound with just him.
You guys know that Jim Donovan guy? You know I banged his daughter.
Wide world of sports. Good old locker room talk without Jesse Young from Sports Illustrated. Sheesh, what a weekend. For normal football stuff, we talk about Browns were bye week, so nothing to talk about there. They didn't have the opportunity to lose this weekend. The Steelers pull off one hell of an upset this weekend. We thought the Ravens were a for sure loss for us, detrimental to our record, and somehow
They held it together.
we went out and played pretty decent. I mean, Ben had a decently solid game. Let's be real, our defense is really what held us together. Our offense wasn't great, but our
That was a
defense-
defensive win.
I
Yeah.
think I posted as like defense played their best for 75% of the game extremely well. The offense only showed up for like that last quarter. So
Yeah.
definitely a defensive
Yeah.
victory.
But I mean, big for us. It's a big win. We've got Ravens again. We've got the Browns still. We've got Bengals. I think we play Vikings this coming week. So tough
2 days.
second half or remaining half of the season. We're 6-1 at this point.
6-5-1.
6-5-1
Yeah.
at this point. So yeah, but great win for us. Sadly, it's weird. There hasn't been anything official from Big Ben himself. He hasn't come out and made a statement around the news that is lingering that this is his last season with the Steelers. But there has been news and grumblings on Twitter and stuff from friends and sources that he's been telling former teammates.
Titans also.
The Titans have talked about that.
No, you have the Titans
Oh,
also
yeah.
because I was counting that. I'm like,
I
there's
was like,
5 games
yeah.
left.
Oh, Titans. Okay.
Titans.
There's been talks, stuff going around about Ben stating this is going to be his last season with the Steelers. So, I mean, we've known that it was coming, and it is time for him to hang it up. But I mean, he's been our quarterback for 17 years. That's all I really know of the Steelers. I've been a fan forever, but I mean, I was younger. I mean, like really watching it all the time, every week is Ben. So it's going to be so weird to watch that team and him not be at the helm anymore. It's sad. I don't know what we have lined up. Dan's a fan. Chris, just from your opinion standpoint, do you think that we are going to have the ability or have anything lined up in this off season that we don't end up relying on Rudolph as the starter next year? Because I mean, he's second string, but he's not a starter. I don't see him leading this team next year. 1, talent, and 2, leadership. He's not the guy. What are we doing this offseason if not already to prepare ourselves for this departure? And 2, why do you guys find it odd that Ben hasn't kind of jumped out in front of these rumors and made any sort of statement about it?
I'll answer that question first.
Okay.
No, because, and I know I'm going to get some shit from another co-host on the show, but Ben is not that kind of person to where he's selfish to want to take away the attention from his team at the moment. That's the thing that I've always kind of respected about him as an outsider's perspective, is that he's very much a team first kind of quarterback. The other thing I wanted to say before I answer your second question is, in my opinion, he's the best Steelers quarterback of all time.
Absolutely.
Now, people will say they'll throw the Bradshaw card. To me, Terry Bradshaw was a lot like Troy Aikman in terms of he was good because he had every tool in the book.
Yeah.
Like Terry Bradshaw at that time had the best receivers in football. He had the best defense of all time. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
So Terry Bradshaw's, he's a good quarterback, but look at the stats. He's no Ben Roethlisberger. So Roethlisberger is the greatest Steelers quarterback of all time, in my opinion.
I mean, that dude has got mega accolades. If
Yeah.
you look at the things that he's accomplished as far as NFL records and stuff, I mean, dude's a beast. He's definitely going to be a first-round Hall of Famer. He's been successful with and without other pieces involved.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I agree with you absolutely.
So your first question though, what do the Steelers do as far as, once Ben's gone, what do they attack? Is it free agency? Do they go after Aaron Rodgers? That's been the kind of the big rumor going around, or do they draft a quarterback and implement him into the system? The thing is that they have to ask themselves is, as a Steelers organization, do they want to win now, as in 2022, 2023, or do they want to win a year or two down the line?
Long term.
You want to win long term down the line. You get a quarterback and a rookie.
Trade up in the draft.
Yeah, get a good one. It's not a good year for quarterbacks, but at the same time, like if you get somebody like Roethlisberger was a MAC quarterback, nobody thought he could do anything, and then he became their greatest quarterback ever. Yeah. But if you want to win now, you throw every dollar you have into the Rodgers debate, and you say we want to win now. He's probably, realistically, Rodgers is going to be good for the next 2 or 3 years. Yeah. Then his career is probably over at that point. Yep. So you want to win for the next couple of years. You put every dollar you have against Rodgers. I think you have a good enough team right now to where, with Aaron Rodgers, who's a better quarterback than Ben, sorry to say,
sure,
that you would at least be playoff contenders. Probably back up in that division talk. Probably back up as one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the AFC. I can definitely see it. Rodgers has a couple years left, and I think, you could maximize his potential if you threw as much money towards him as possible.
Yeah, I think grab Rodgers, sign him to like a 2-year contract.
Yeah.
And then while we've got him in place to start being successful with him, get rid of Rudolph, trade him out, try and bring in somebody else under Rodgers to start preparing for when he's
the rookie
out.
Yeah.
Get that rookie in there, start letting him play.
Yeah.
And prepare for Rodgers' departure, and not wait to the last minute like we would then.
Yeah.
And now we're going to be screwed. What do you think, Dan, on both those questions?
I'm not surprised that he hasn't said anything. Like Chris said, he keeps to himself a lot and doesn't want to take the attention away from the team.
Yeah.
You watch him in post-game press conferences and stuff. He's very team focused with his talks. It's never about me. It's about everybody else. We're a team. We do this together. So I'm not surprised by that. I will say that looking at the Steelers' history of getting quarterbacks, they've developed them. So I don't know that they're going to throw money, but like you said, Chris, if you want to win now, you got to get somebody good, because Rudolph, Haskett, they're not going to be your go-to.
And you don't want to throw a rookie quarterback right to the proverbial lions,
No.
right off the bat and say, like, we're going to ruin this kid's career. We're going to put him out there on opening day. You don't do that.
The Browns do that. You witnessed that through the Browns. The way they played is it's a bad scenario to put a brand new quarterback
so much
into.
pressure. Look at the pressure that Baker has to deal with, which is part of why. I mean, they threw Baker to the Lions, like you said, and put all that pressure on him. And he's carried himself well, but he's also has so much on his shoulders so early on.
The pressures of a losing franchise are on his shoulders.
Right.
Like that's that's not a joke, but that's years and years of losing, and nobody wants to win now like Cleveland fans want to win now.
And the opposite side of that, the Steelers have a very winning pedigree.
Yeah.
So you could put a brand new quarterback into that role. There's a lot of pressure to win games on him. So I think they should develop, like get a veteran and develop a quarterback for the role.
I like that.
But
work on that line a little bit too. Maybe draft some linemen. I would like to see like some offensive linemen.
Some protection.
Yeah.
That Sunday night game was stressful.
Dude, my anxiety was
stressful.
So bad.
But
awful.
And as fans, like you really comment on what happened today or what happened yesterday.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like when you Steelers fans, like, Ben, you got to get out of here. You're done.
Yeah.
He had one bad game. Again, look at his background, his career, what he's done.
Yep.
He's put up some major stats.
Yeah.
And he's a great quarterback, whether he wins today or not. He's still a great quarterback.
He got him 2 rings. He's a 17-year veteran. How many quarterbacks in the NFL last 17 years?
Not many.
Right?
Yeah.
And successful.
Yeah.
He's never had a losing season.
Yeah, I'm pumped for the future of the Steelers. I hope he comes out in the next couple of weeks and talks about it, because that's all the media is going to be focused around.
Yeah. I don't
clear the air.
I think at this point he's going to wait to the end of the season.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. There's grumblings going around about him leaving, but if they end up being successful, maybe he doesn't. I think he's gone. I don't even know how long they've extended him, but why jump the gun at this point? I mean, I think he's going to wait till the end of the season and officially announce his retirement at the end of the year, whether it's if they make the playoffs or don't make the playoffs.
I mean, he's probably kept it in the locker room. I mean, he's probably told his players, like, hey, let's win these last 6 games.
Focus on this season, and
let's win these last 6 games for me.
Maybe he does the Kevin Costner and for love of the game and signs the football and hands it to management and says, I'm out.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be bittersweet for him. I mean, this is all you've known for the last 17 years of your life. And then you're just going to walk away. I was saying to Dan the other day, like, what do you do at that point? Does he walk away from football altogether? Does he get into coaching or, when that's all he's not old, I mean, he's taken a beating as a quarterback because he's been a very aggressive and physical quarterback more than most, just based on his size and stuff. So I understand him getting out. His body's just taking a beating. Honestly, if he wasn't as abused as he was, he probably could continue to play.
Yeah.
But you can see it in him. He's having a hard time, physically he's just beaten up. But what do you do next? You're 39, I think 38, 39 years old. You walk away, you're done with football together and just go on and live your life. Do you become an announcer or whatever? I mean, he's a solid quarterback. I think he could have a career outside of just being a player.
A lot of players coach high school teams locally where they live. Their kids play football or whatever. They'll coach those. Ben,
I don't see that.
I don't see him. I don't even see him getting into the broadcast booth or announcing games or being a commentator.
You think he's that guy that just disappears?
I think he will. He might stick around as a mentor to
An ambassador for the Steelers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like the Jim Brown for the Browns.
Yeah.
I could probably see more of that. He's not like a very outspoken personality.
Yeah.
Where you'd see him as a broadcaster,
Right.
like real vibrant and energetic. You know, he's not a lot in the media. When he is, it's very kind of monotone and quiet. He's very team first type thing. But yeah, he isn't very like, he's not a Baker.
No.
Baker's obviously very young and he's loving the spotlight, but Baker's out there like doing his fun commercials and like he's very confident. He loves being in front of the camera,
Making his money while he can.
Yeah, it's not Ben. So I don't know if I could see him being a
I think
commentator.
he'll be quiet in the
Yeah.
post NFL life.
Hey, lots of money to just do whatever the fuck you want. You know. So.
Remember the motorcycle incident years and years
Yes,
ago?
I do.
God.
Yes, I do.
That was like the biggest. Well,
That wasn't the biggest.
Second biggest.
Allegedly.
Like hiccup in his career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard when you're in the spotlight like that, and everyone knows who you are. It's pretty hard to go your entire career without having any sort of something, whether it's true or not, come up like someone trying to accuse you of something.
And it's tougher when you're the Steelers quarterback. You're an American institution.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the same as a Cowboys or, the Browns, all these, like if you're a quarterback of that, the public eye is on you more than it would be a Titans or a Patriot, Yeah.
So, I mean, Steelers news, that's a big deal. Ben, end of an era, man. I mean, 17 years, almost 2 decades of time. He's been running that ship. So we'll see him maybe retire at the end of this year, and who knows what comes next year. Again, nothing with Cowboys. Did you have
Yeah, we played the Saints on Thursday night. And it was an ugly offensive game, like the Steelers. Total defensive win. Our defense looked stunning. You wondered where this defense was last week, but then you kind of take it half glass full, half empty kind of scenario, because the Saints are playing with their third string quarterback, Taysom Hill, who also has a broken middle finger. So imagine trying to throw with a splint on your middle finger. It's not exactly the easiest thing in the world. So we took advantage of him. We had 4 interceptions, 2 of which was to Trayvon Diggs, which I love. He's probably behind Myles Garrett. He's the defensive player of the year, in my opinion. He's that
TJ Watt.
Yes, I would say Trayvon Diggs has 11 interceptions.
Wow.
In 11
TJ
games.
Watt's got better stats than Miles, and everyone's saying Miles is going to win.
Do you know how tough it is just to get even 3 interceptions in a year? This kid's got 11. It's his rookie year.
He's got more interceptions.
He's probably better. I'm not saying he's not a contender for best, but I'm just surprised you put Miles ahead of Watt.
Okay, I'll say something we can all agree on. Trayvon Diggs is the best cornerback in football.
Oh, absolutely.
Period.
No questions
asked. There's no debate on that. So, So watching the game, our offense was asleep. Dak Prescott, this is the first loss that I would blame on him if we did lose this game, because he looked terrible. I don't know why. I think he was lacking that chemistry with receivers, because Amari was out for a couple weeks. CeeDee Lamb was out last week. He had the concussion. So I think he lacked the chemistry with them. Hopefully he'll come back this week against Washington. We'll see what happens. But the game, honestly, was kind of boring until about the 4th quarter. We blew it open because we had 2 big interceptions late in that game.
Yep.
And then it just seemed like the Saints couldn't catch us because Taysom Hill couldn't throw downfield.
Yeah.
So at that point, you knew it was anticlimactic, but it was over. And it felt good to get a win, especially coming off the Raiders loss. And, we've been kind of disappointing lately. I'll take 8-4 at this point. We've got a favorable schedule down the stretch. Our only tough game is really Arizona. But
10-2.
But we'll see what happens. I welcome that challenge, because I personally think Arizona is overrated, but everybody else seems to think that they're Super Bowl contenders. We'll see what happens, but we should run through our division. I would hope we should run rampant on everybody in there.
Nice. We don't have to talk a lot about Browns because they were off this week, but for their upcoming game, so they play Ravens.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on how they pan out? They lost them first time. You think that they come back and have I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but they pull this one off?
They split the season series, you're saying? No.
Yeah.
I predicted when we were doing our preseason picks at the start of the season, I said the Browns were going to lose both games to the Ravens because the Ravens are going to be division champions.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't expect the Ravens to be like the 2 seed right now in the AFC. I'll say that. I expected them probably around 3 or 4.
Yeah.
But they've risen to the occasion even with all these injuries. Granted, you have the Steelers loss, but I feel like they're entitled to that one. They've been on a roll before that game.
Yeah.
So losing to the Steelers doesn't set them back that much. If they lost the Browns, then you'd have problems. I see the Ravens winning this one. I think it'll be a little closer than that first game, but I feel like the Ravens eke it out.
Yeah, I say it's going to Ravens too. It's in Baltimore, isn't it?
No, it's in Cleveland. This one.
Is it? Oh
Yep.
God. Woo. Oh, when we play them next, is it home? I don't know. Either way.
Yeah, you're going to Baltimore.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't foresee them winning. I think they've always struggled with the Ravens, rightfully so. For our win, it was a fluke. I mean, they had 4 turnovers. It was our defense. I mean, our offense didn't win that game. So
7 sacks.
yeah, wild.
Wow,
Bro.
that line has no protection
Forced
whatsoever.
fumble.
Yeah, Lamar was getting just eaten up, man. So
And he was trying to do too much sometimes and just ran into
that's
trouble.
Lamar.
Yeah, I mean,
That's what he does.
the thing is with running quarterbacks, it's that once they have you timed, once they know your schemes and everything, you really have to throw it with your arm at that point. And I'm not saying Lamar, I'm not the guy on this show that says Lamar doesn't have an arm.
Yeah.
I think he proved that with a couple of those Andrews throws late down the stretch in the Browns game, which were amazing. But I'm just saying you better develop that arm as much as you develop that leg.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Hubert from the Chargers. I mean, that dude is all about running the ball himself, and he goes for it.
Justin's
and that's kind of the Lamar play, and he does have the speed, but as a quarterback, you shouldn't be relying on yourself for that. You know, one, it's a great way to get injured as a quarterback.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. I hope the Browns lose to the Ravens.
I think the Ravens are going to play with the chip on their shoulder after losing to us.
Yeah,
the Steelers game at the very end, like they had it in the bag.
Dan makes a good point. I would like the Browns' chances more if the Ravens beat the Steelers, because I think they're vulnerable at that point and they're due for a loss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it'll be good for us just to keep the Browns at bay. Doesn't do us any good, obviously, with moving up, but it will at least keep the Browns behind us.
Which is all you've wanted.
It's all my hope at this point. I mean, I said from the beginning we weren't going playoffs.
Yeah.
But I don't want to finish behind the Browns. So let's just hope that works out in our favor. Big game yesterday was the Bills versus Bill.
Yeah.
What a fucking game.
Dude, that wind.
3 passes. Only 3 pass attempts in that entire game. 2 were made. Lowest since 1970?
1974.
That is insane. Did you guys watch any of that game?
Yeah. I caught a lot of the first half. I caught pieces of the end too.
Yeah.
So I was watching, like you sent the video in our chat of like the pregame warmups of the kicker, like kicking just basic field goals, 30-yard field goals, which is a chip shot for them.
Yeah.
And it's going up and it's like staying up and then it just drifts off to the right.
Oh,
Like that's Buffalo, man. That's why that team in this particular season, that team is the funnest team to watch.
Yeah.
Because they always have those environmental elements that are out of their control.
It's just awful.
Yeah. As someone who spent a couple winters in Buffalo, my stepmom was born there.
Okay.
Like, dude, they have some crazy winters.
Yeah, that's a hard pass for me. But Belichick pulls it off as usual. He's the greatest. So
He is.
they somehow managed to beat the Bills. I don't want to say somehow managed, just the Patriots. You know, that's what they do. But it was a close game. It wasn't like a blowout or anything. They only won by 3 points. 4 points. So yeah, interesting game though. Just weather, cold, stats in itself.
It was kind of boring though.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like I heard the announcer say
3 passes.
23rd run in a row by the.
That's not fun to watch.
Patriots.
Yeah, it's just not fun to watch.
23 run plays straight.
I had Damian Harris as one of my running on my fantasy team, so I'm good.
Great for you.
I loved it.
It's not an exciting game. You know, you look for those long pass, exciting catch plays like off the sideline. That's not fun. So, but yeah, they pulled that off. The other big thing, this was kind of a big deal, I think. The Staples Center.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows the Staples Center. The Clippers, the Lakers. They got like 4 teams that play there, and then
Kings
LA play
Kings.
there. Venue in itself, you hear the Staples Center, it's like a big deal, and they are no longer the Staples Center. They were taking down the sign today, and it's now going to be Crypto.com Arena, which is super fucking lame. They signed a $700 million deal over the next 20 years. So we've got to listen to Crypto.com
just
for the next 20 years is the name of that stadium.
Think about like now's the time to get into any crypto if you haven't in the past. Like,
I mean, that's a big investment. That's for longevity's sake, like you're saying. I mean, 20 years is a
Exactly.
big contract. Man.
I
don't
hope
foresee
this
it.
shit crashes.
It's not
I hope
going
it
to.
fucking crashes.
I don't see it. I don't see it.
completely. Look back at this episode in 5 years. I hope it fucking crashes.
I agree. I don't think it happens.
I'm trying to get him to do his little like drawings on the NFTs.
Yeah,
Start making money off that shit.
I don't see
now while you can.
I don't see it being a long-term
Because
thing.
if it does crash, like Chris is hoping.
It's a fraudulent investment scheme type thing. I don't foresee it picking up. It's not going to pick up and be anything that anyone truly believes in until it's actually adopted by major corporations. Right now, it's a side hustle. These companies are using it to make money and investments off of, but you can't use it for anything. But to that point, I mean, that's a huge investment by Crypto.com. You got Matt Damon as their like one of their spokespeople.
Those fucking commercials.
I see when we were in Philadelphia, I mean, giant digital billboards for Crypto.com. I mean, it's blowing up. I don't know where the traction's coming from.
That's funny. You see that in Philadelphia. I was seeing dispensary billboards, giant dispensary billboards in Detroit.
It's legal in Detroit.
Every
like Michigan in general.
Pretty much the same city.
Every mile marker.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I find that kind of sad just to think that now where it's crypto arena. Like that's just so lame and boring.
Yeah.
In a huge, just a long time wise investment. 20 years is a long time for them to believe.
How long is Staples going to be around?
I mean, it's been the Staples Center. It's the only other name that stadium's had.
There's one by my house.
I know. How much longer are those going to be around?
Yeah.
I remember when it was the Forum. So
not Staples Center.
When I was a kid, it was the Forum.
It was a different arena. This stadium has only ever been Staples
Is it
Center.
really?
Yep.
What the fuck they do with the Forum? The Forum's legendary.
They built a different place, probably just like the Coliseum.
Oh, I thought it was the Forum, and then they made it the Staples. They just bought the
when
rights.
I was reading the article, it said this has never held a different name. It's been the Staples Center since its incarnation.
Wow.
So
we'll go play at the Forum.
Yeah, I mean, they gotta do something at this point. That sucks. It's just such a lame name. It's like fucking changing from the Jake to Progressive Field. Like this is lame.
Not me. I'm not even an Indians fan, or I'm not even a Guardians fan, and I call it the Jake.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's always
like,
the Jake to me.
Who's gonna call it Crypto Play? People are still gonna say it's Staples Center. It's what it is. It's like Madison Square Garden. That ever changes its name. Like no fucking way. That's what it is.
I can't.
And Gund Arena. It's always gonna be Gund Arena.
It's always
It's been this now in its third name.
Yeah. The Q and then the Rocket Mortgage, the Romo Fijo.
Fijo.
Yeah.
Well, crypto's staying around for 20 years, so that's all we're gonna fucking know. So yeah, that's going on, and then
we're stuck.
What else? Boxing news. So Woodley or Paul, Chris's favorite boxer. So there was the Paul and what's his name that was supposed to fight him?
What
the fuck's his
Fury.
name? Yeah, Fury. So it was supposed to be
Nick Fury.
It was supposed to be.
No, it's Tyson's brother. I can't remember what his name is.
I don't know. He's a douche, but yeah, Tyson Fury, who's a big name boxer. His brother was supposed to fight Jake Paul, and some kind of health concern. He backed out. So Woodley is going to come back, and there's going to be a rematch, which I think is stupid. I think Woodley's it's a paycheck. I mean, he's not going to win.
Most boring fighter in existence.
Go for it.
Well, the thing I was going to say that I found interesting in this was that everyone was talking shit about the legitimacy of their fights, and how they had like no knockout clauses. They weren't real fights because no one was. It was like an exhibition fight.
But they're starting to make videos of that on TikTok now.
But it's not true. They actually reviewed the contract and they said that was bullshit. There was no knockout clause.
Did we see the contract?
Huh? It was by a legitimate source.
Who's the legitimate source?
It was like
their legitimate source.
It was like ESPN or something. It was like an actual source. You can trust me. I wouldn't put it on here if it wasn't.
I still find it fucking hard to believe. As much training as the Pauls do, I find it hard to believe that Floyd Mayweather wouldn't knock their ass out in fucking 1 minute flat.
Did they fight Floyd?
Yeah, the older one.
Well,
Jake.
I'm talking about the previous Woodley fight.
Yeah, I know, but
there was no knockout clause in that fight. Everyone was saying that fight was a joke, and that it was just an exhibition. They weren't allowed to knock each other out. That just wasn't.
Maybe not.
The case.
Maybe it was just
the Mayweather one's different. That wasn't acknowledged. All they talked about was the previous Woodley fight. That was not a thing.
Dude's the greatest boxer that ever lived.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, like, Jesus Christ.
That one they didn't talk about. That there very well might have been a no knockout clause in the one that was the older brother.
Yeah.
But the one that was with Woodley, it wasn't, and now he's offering him an extra $500,000.
Yeah.
If he can knock him out, he'll get his purse, whatever the purse is, plus an extra $500,000. If I'm Woodley, man, all I'm doing for the next fucking whatever days till this fight, 24 hours a day, is practicing knocking this bitch out.
Build some hurting bombs.
$500,000, bro.
Dude, he's gonna run around that ring, try not to get touched once.
Wild, bro. Wild. Yeah. The Pauls are making money.
That was the first fight, though.
This fucking guy.
I didn't watch it.
Chris hates the Pauls like Jesse hates the Steelers.
Jesse hates the Pauls as well.
I'm not a fan of the Pauls either.
I like them. I like their hustle.
I like their hustle, but I don't. They're not world-class boxers by any stretch.
Not yet. They'll have their moment. But yeah, so that fight's coming up. If you're into the boxing world at all, you can watch that. They got like 5 or so fights that night. There's another well-known.
That's coming up in a
boxer
couple weeks, isn't it?
Yeah.
Next
it's like 2
weekend?
weekends, I think.
Yeah.
There's a notable female name on the card too. I can't remember what her name is, but I think she's an old UFC fighter. Anyhow,
Could be Gianna Carano.
Check out-
even if it's not.
check out that fight if you're into the boxing world at all. And then Chris is going to hit us with something that I'm not super familiar with the story, but for the Olympics. So we got some Olympic news coming on. Beijing Olympics, is it Summer Olympics?
Winter 2022.
Oh, Winter Olympics of next year. Apparently there is some news coming out that Chris wants to tell you about.
So the news of this broke on Saturday. The America has decided they are going on a diplomatic boycott of the Beijing Olympics, and specifically the Chinese country and the way it's run and all that. They're doing this as a way of standing against the way they treat their citizens. Basically, what plays into that is something we talked about last week with Korea, as far as executing this kid for bringing in a DVD to school, for crying out loud. So they're taking a diplomatic boycott. And what that means basically is that they are letting it known that they are not in support of where this facility is being held, like where these games are being held, but they are still going to compete in the Olympics for everything. They're just not going to promote it as hard.
What does it even mean?
Here's my problem with that. 2 things. One, what does a boycott mean to you? If you go into work tomorrow and you say, I'm boycotting work, what does that mean?
I'm not showing up.
Yeah, I'm out.
You agree?
Yes, I agree.
I do too. You're still there. It's not really a boycott.
Yeah.
You can say it's a diplomatic boycott. That's
Stupid.
bullshit. You're still partaking in it. It's the same exact thing.
Yeah, money's still getting made.
Yeah. If you really wanted to impress people, we're taking America out of these games
100%.
just to show that we don't support it. We're the biggest market and we're going to take it completely out of Beijing.
Yeah.
2, they're saying they're not going to promote it. It's on NBC. I checked the schedules there. NBC has said we're still going to have around the clock coverage of the Winter Olympics.
Well, it's a government mandate, though. It's not the media. The media is not going to talk about it.
So what do you mean you're not going to promote it? The government's not going to promote it? We wouldn't expect you to anyway. Nobody gives a shit about you.
Oh my God.
So that's my problem with this whole thing. Like, I'm all for taking stands, and I agree that the way they treat their citizens is ridiculous. But if you really want to take a stand, take a fucking stand.
Yeah. Who announced this? Biden?
Yeah, Biden. Well, Biden was asked about it, and because it was rumored at first that they were talking about Nancy, or what's her name? Not Nancy Pelosi, but Jen Psaki or whatever, the Secretary of State, Psaki. So she was asked about it, and she had said, like, yeah, we don't support this. We don't support where it's being held from. They even went as far as to try and to pull the games from it being in Beijing. And this is something that was set a decade ago. Like, they set these 10 years in advance. These
they have
locations.
to build these stadiums, and they build hotels.
And then they all go to shit.
So this whole thing to me reeks of attention grabbing, and it doesn't hold merit with me because they're still competing.
This seems like it's going to become more of a nothing to do with the Olympics. It's going to be a diplomatic standpoint with our relationship with China, because, like you said, if there was a boycott, we wouldn't be competing. We wouldn't let a Team USA go there to actually compete. We would pull out. We say we don't agree with the treatment of the people there, or whatever it is that we're boycotting. Supposedly, we wouldn't allow people to go. And they don't advertise it, so I don't get what that means.
Mhm.
And I call bullshit anyways. If we're really not going because, or if we're not supporting it because we don't believe in the way that they're treated there, we're their biggest importer.
Yeah.
We're the biggest one supporting the way that their fucking people are treated there because we supply them with all of the money for their jobs.
That's a good point.
It's complete bullshit. Maybe this will be the start of us trying to break ties. I mean, I've said for a long time, before Biden, even before Trump, that we need to be less resourceful, or less reliant on China for our goods. You know, the amount of imports that we have. I mean, we're their biggest importer. I'd say 90% of our infrastructure is based on fucking shit we get from China.
Yeah,
You know, we need to be more reliant on our own workforce. We do know that their labor laws aren't great, but we are big corporations in this country. Huge corporations in this country utilize them for labor. I mean, look at Nike for one. Nike's a huge one. And LeBron has gotten shit for it.
Oh yeah,
he tries to talk out about
the big
China
thing.
and with you know, his shoes being made there and this and the other thing, that he should have them made somewhere else, but all he cares about is the money that he makes from them. I mean, there's a lot of big companies who, I mean, Apple's another one. Oh, Apple might be Taiwan. Either way, besides the point.
I wanted to answer your first question. This was brought forth by the Foreign Relations Committee, specifically Chairman Robert Menendez, who basically brought it up and said that they've talked about it and has stated in so many words that they're not going to support fanfare of this whole thing in that quote. And then China has responded in all of this with the, you know, because they've been flung through the mud in the media and they've been asked about everything. And they've said, I quote, they will greet this measure with firm countermeasures of their own.
Of course they will.
Interesting. I wouldn't want to send my athletes to that country knowing that's what was said in response. Now I'd be pulling them out.
So you're an athlete who's trained your whole life to compete in the Olympics. And
yeah,
this political stance that the U.S. has taken has nothing to do with your performing in the Olympics. How pissed off would you be?
I love your perspective there. And you focused on something that I meant to talk about, but didn't. That's a great point. Like, to me, you're issuing too much of a distraction going on. I have a million other things going through my head right now. I don't need your bullshit on top of it. I'm trying to win a gold medal for my country. This is the biggest moment of my life.
Yep. That aggravates me too, because it's pulling the attention away from those athletes that have trained
Absolutely
to compete. So
yeah, it's done at a poor time because the stance doesn't make sense. You know, like it allowed the athletes to compete, like Dan said.
Where was this talk last year when the Olympics were supposed to take place? Wasn't it supposed to be last year?
No, it's this year. Yeah, this year is the year. But I mean, you're right though. You could have. Yeah,
because of COVID. Didn't COVID shut down?
No. This is an odd year, or this is an even year. So yeah, it's always this way.
Okay. I wasn't. I thought something was pushed back because I think it maybe would have been started earlier, because it's very rare that it's the same, like, coincides with Super Bowl weekend.
Yeah. Well, it's the week right after. I think. I don't think it's the actual Super Bowl week.
I think it is.
Maybe.
I think it is. I heard them talking about it.
Then yeah, I would have done the week after
on NBC. I heard them talking about it.
Yeah, to me though, it's in
poor taste.
It's going to happen. Like, you knew this was coming up in 10 years, and what has China started treating their citizens wrong in the last 2 years? Like, no, this isn't new news to anybody. Like, if you really wanted to back this cause, you would have done this 10 years ago before your players were even signed.
If you wanted it to not be held in China, address the Olympic Committee 4 years ago.
Yeah,
whatever. After the last Olympics ended, and say, hey, let's talk about staging where this is going to be.
Right.
You know, like at this point, it's super short. It's a freaking month away, 2 months away. It's fucking dumb. I call bullshit on the whole thing. Honestly, there's something else going on behind the scenes that they're trying to raise.
They're trying to start a world war.
There's something. It's just the Olympics is stupid. And then to your point, now you're going to send our athletes there and put them at risk of who knows what fucking happening.
Countermeasures.
Stupid, man.
I personally, I don't care. I'm going to be pulling for the Jamaican bobsled team regardless.
Me too, man. So yeah, that's all I got for sports. You want to do Let's Get Social?
Sure.
Let's do Let's Get Social.
Main event tonight.
Well, we're talking about some political type stuff, so I feel like it makes sense to
transition
to get social.
It is July 20th, 1969. Man is about to land on the moon.
Freedom itself was attacked this morning by a faceless coward, and freedom will be defended.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
That's the way the news goes.
Didn't have sexual relations with that woman, but he might have been on Epstein Island.
Speaking of liars,
No, but to the point of stupid political crap happening in our commander in chief and president of the United States, Biden. So apparently there's something going on with them in Russia. Biden and Putin, is that his name?
Yeah, they're making TikToks.
Vladimir Putin.
Biden and Putin had to sit down to discuss Russian actions against Ukraine. So apparently Ukraine has been Russia has been arming up and creating a strong man force at the border of Russia and Ukraine, and is threatening some kind of action against them.
Terrific.
And Biden has stepped in and said that it will not be tolerated. And if Russia continues to put this pressure on Ukraine or tries to move forward with any sort of war action, that the United States and the United Nations will defend them, and we'll step in and basically be against Russia in this point.
So get involved in someone else's war again.
I mean, this is he's what, 6,
And then China will come over and join the battle.
They, I mean, very well would probably back Russia,
and we'll all die by the end of it.
I said, well, I was talking about crypto.com 20 years, so that's all that we would know. My thing is with this is the Russia thing isn't anything new. I mean, we've been back and forth with Russia for a long time.
Yeah.
But much like we've talked about on this show before, is our stance in getting involved in these things that don't involve us. Why are we stepping in between a war with Russia and Ukraine? Like, what is our foothold there? I don't know. Do we have any kind of diplomacy? Is that a word? Diplomacy with Ukraine? Do we have a U.S. embassy in Ukraine? I don't know anything. Do we?
We do, yeah. But I mean, they're one of our allies. They're one of the lesser known ones. But at the same time, I'm from that libertarian side of the tracks that says, like I've always said on this show, if it ain't on our soil, I don't give a shit. Like that's just the way it is. It sounds selfish, but that problem is not my problem.
Right, man. I don't know. It seems silly to get involved in that at this point. Like, let them figure it out. There's plenty of the United Nations isn't just the United States. Mm-hmm. So let another country that's over there that's local figure it out or step up and do something. Presidents need wars.
Yeah.
It's what they need. He had his little stint with Afghanistan that didn't bode well for him. So now is his opportunity to step up and be the guy that goes in and like saves the day. I think it's fucking stupid, but it's nothing against Biden. It just in general, I think it's just fucking dumb.
This is the bragging rights that a president like Trump will have forever, because you can look at it and go, yeah, while he only had 4 years, he never really had his war. And that's the thing. Like, he can always say that he was the president of peace. And I mean, he can back it up too, because it's legitimate.
Yeah, dude, he was the first president ever to cross the demilitarized zone in North Korea.
Yeah.
First president ever.
Yep.
To meet with the president of North Korea.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big deal.
I give him credit where it's deserved, but but now you have, Biden in his first year and a half, you can say, and now we're going to go back to one of the world's superpowers and fucking, pick on them and push our weight around. Yeah. Okay. And we'll see where this goes.
Yeah. And Russia, honestly, Russia's not really one of those countries I really want to be too involved with. Them and China are like the two countries where I'm like, let's just keep the peace. I don't really want to piss them off. Putin is not one that's afraid to push the button, much like China. So
it's a big country.
Yeah, dude,
lots of land.
Russia
is
huge.
Probably have a lot of warheads that we don't want to fuck with.
Yeah, Cold War, man. Have you looked at Russia on a map before?
Yeah.
I mean, Russia, that country is bigger than the entire northern and South America.
Yeah.
Russia is huge.
That was the big fear during the Cold War. It was the fact that, they have the army that can totally compete with ours.
Yep.
They have the genocidal weapons. They have all that stuff. Like, they're basically us, just a little further out east.
We need to send in Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd. They can get some warheads for us.
As long as they don't fucking make them watch nothing but trouble.
That's such a good movie.
Oh God, no!
That's such a good movie.
No,
I was thinking Spies Like Us, but Nothing But Trouble, dude. The hot dogs in that movie look so nasty.
Oh, and his nose is a dick.
They're all like they're so white and like see-through. I love that movie. But yeah, so that's fun. That's going on with Russia. We'll see what happens. Maybe it'll de-escalate very quick, like the whole Russia and Australia thing, or China and Australia thing. That was a big deal for one day, and then it kind of fizzled out. Let's hope for the best. So that's going on, and then we've got two big kind of follow-up points from previous conversations that we had over the last 2 weeks or so. So we talked last week and the week before that about the Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein case. It was going to be kicking off. And then last week we talked about how it was going on, but it was very quiet. You know, they weren't, it wasn't a lot of media coverage or anything like that going on. And it's starting to open up, starting to get more information about it. One of the things that I read today was they uncovered a bunch of stuff from his mansion in Manhattan. Dude had like an 8-story, like ridiculous fucking mansion in Manhattan, which I didn't know that. But they found a whole bunch of photo albums with like nude and semi-nude photos in them, like DVDs, hard drives, all this stuff. The one part that I found interesting and I thought was pretty shady was, so they're doing the search of his property. They have a warrant. They're looking for things. And one of the main things they were trying to find was his safe. And apparently they are overturning his place, trying to find the safe, and they find it. And they had to get a warrant to search the actual safe itself. So they leave to obtain a warrant for it. When they come back, the safe has been emptied. And then 2 days later, one of Epstein's lawyers returns all of the contents of the safe in 2 suitcases. And I'm
all
like,
of it?
He removed this contents from the safe. So now we're supposed to believe that he brought back anything that was incriminating.
That's tampering to me.
Yes.
That's fucking tampering. Like I know a lawyer's got the right to fucking represent their client to the fullest extent, but that's fucking tampering.
Yeah, bro.
And that should be called upon to the jury right away.
Yeah, I think that's complete bullshit. I mean, there's no way to know that this man didn't remove anything out of that. I mean, obviously he did. He felt the need to empty it.
Yeah.
And then bring it back.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here, man. That shit's super shady.
That's impeding on an investigation.
Yeah.
And his ass should be brought forth, just like Ghislaine and all these other fucking idiots.
Yeah. So yeah,
so he was in the building when they found the safe, and then they sent somebody to go get a warrant for it, or
so
it was already known that the safe existed and they were getting the warrant for it.
So they knew that there was a safe. They were looking to uncover the safe. And then upon finding the safe, they had to get a warrant to search for it. They actually had to know it was existing before they could get a warrant to search it. So they're searching the property. They're looking for evidence. They're looking for the safe, and they eventually find it in a bedroom, like hidden in like one of the like guest bedroom closets. You know, it was like a hidden thing in there. And they uncovered it. Once they uncovered the actual safe, now they submit for a warrant. So they leave the premise. You would imagine they'd leave someone there to
I was going to say,
had
somebody there watching it, so that something like that couldn't happen.
Yeah.
And that testimony of Ghislaine doesn't match up with where the safe was by her testimony. Like she said, it was in a completely different bedroom. Like I think it was in their bedroom, as a matter of fact. So it doesn't. So there's rumor that like it was already moved, that it was tampered with already before they even wanted to search the house at all to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, for it to have been emptied is shady, and yeah, for it to not be watched as evidence, or for the lawyer to have been able to get in there and empty it. How are you allowed in there? That's a crime scene at that point. Like so I was trespassing, or like what you said, impeding on investigation.
Yeah.
Super shady. That's the thing with these high profile cases. Like we're never going to get the full truth of this thing, regardless. It's always going to be hearsay. There's going to be things that are covered up. There's too many people involved in this case that it's not that we're never going to know what really happened.
Right.
I don't foresee like true justice ever coming from this.
I mean,
sadly,
a few people are going to be held accountable. It's
of course
not going to reach the extent that it probably should.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the big name guys, obviously. Like, and this is when they were talking about Prince William the other day. He was brought up in a testimony, and it was that, you know, that known pederast pilot flew William and his family and all that, but there was nothing that ever dug deep into it as far as William, you know, slept with a child or anything like that. It was just, well, he was there and all that. That's my problem with this whole thing. It's, if you're going to name these guys, it has to be by accusation. Like, it can't just be they rode with this guy.
That's the thing. At this point, they're just using these like names to like get attention, but they're just throwing out names. They're not saying that they actually did anything. And then there was an article that came out. I think you might have shared it.
Did you see
Where
mine?
they're talking
That's
about
what-
like the house guests or whatever.
Yeah.
We're saying how they were told that they didn't see, hear, or know anything, that they were supposed to basically agree that whatever went on,
see no
they
evil, hear
turned
no
their
evil.
eye and they didn't know anything about it. I'm like, you're just as guilty.
Every one of those motherfuckers, I want them lined up too.
Yeah, you're just as guilty. If you're let's say you're the housekeeper, the chef, whatever,
Mhm.
and you know that young women and children are being brought to this home and being sexually assaulted, there's no money that's telling me to turn a blind eye to that. I'm
Yep.
sorry. I'm fucking turning your ass in.
I'd look them right in their eye and I'm telling them, you're
Fuck
going to jail
off.
right now unless you tell me what happened, what you saw, everything. Like,
Yeah.
let me know.
That's
I
complete
mean,
bullshit.
money might not have been an option. It could have been the survival of their kids, their family. You know, they probably threatened those workers.
I get it, but my thing is like, okay, so once you know that, did you quit? Did you keep working there?
Yeah.
Like,
To me,
I don't know, man.
I don't want any part of that. The second I know there's shit going on,
Yeah.
I'm gone. Even if I don't tell anybody, like I'm gone.
Yeah.
I'm fucking gone.
Yeah. It's so shitty. But other than those little things that are starting to leak, I mean, not too much new information. You know, there's lists of people that were supposedly there. We know that he had like his sex room that he was had there.
Did you see the pictures on that?
No.
Oh my God,
Sad.
man. Dude, Christian Grey ain't got shit on this guy.
Yeah.
This looks like a fucking torture room.
Fucking wild, bro.
Yeah.
What a sick dude, man. I just, like I said a couple episodes ago, I really hope that no one that I really like look up to is found guilty. Not like if they did it, I want them to be found guilty. But I'm hoping that there's not anybody on
there's
there
no
with-
involvement.
They had no involvement, you know, because there's so many people on these lists, and I'm like, God, please don't be a fucking douchebag. Don't be a piece of shit, because I really like you, and that's gonna suck real bad.
So let's talk. Let's put it in your terms then. Like this, obviously, this is not true. Everything I'm saying is based on pure concept and assumption and all that. Say, you know, your favorite band, Brand New.
Yeah.
Say one of them got busted for something like this.
I'd be devastated.
What does that change that for you? Are you done listening to them?
I would see, that's tough, and
it's different for everybody. That's why I ask.
And that's tough, because I think we've talked about that kind of on the show before, in a little bit different element. But I mean, I wouldn't be going to see them in concert anymore by any means. Well, obviously, probably if you found guilty, they wouldn't be performing. But would I stop listening to their music? No, I'm gonna be completely honest. I wouldn't stop listening to music of theirs that I enjoy. And I guess you could say I'm supporting them financially, because I was going to say I wouldn't support them anyway financially. Like I wouldn't buy new albums or buy merchandise of theirs.
Put money back into theirs.
Yeah, but I mean,
You'd burn the
separate
CDs, download the MP3s, burn the CDs.
I could separate the art, you know, like, I mean, this is a product that they created. I think I'm supporting the music. I'm not necessarily supporting that individual in that band that was guilty of that crime. So yeah, I would still listen to their music. It obviously would change my perspective on them as artists. You know, Jesse Lacey is the lead singer of Brand New. I follow him and his wife on Instagram. I'm a big fan of them. I've done art of him. Like, so in that aspect, if they were ever found guilty of something like that, yeah. The way that I see him as a human being would be different, but I would still listen to the music. I mean, would you cease to watch any movie ever created by like your favorite director if they were found guilty of being part of Epstein Island?
It's hard to say that you would stop watching it just because, like, say I own the movie. Okay. For argument's sake, it's Stand By Me. Okay. Say one of the people in Stand By Me, Jerry O'Connell's found guilty of this.
Yep.
I already own the movie. Like, you know, there's other characters, there's other actors in it besides him.
Yep.
So to not watch that movie on their merits and all that, that's kind of unfair for them, you know?
Yeah.
To me, I don't think I would buy anything. Like I wouldn't put more money into them anymore. So like if I own that copy, obviously it's already mine. I did that beforehand to begin with. I wouldn't buy anything else. I wouldn't buy another Jerry O'Connell movie ever again. Because that to me is directly supporting it. But like I wouldn't stop watching Stand By Me because of that. No.
Dan? Would you, I mean, take your favorite thing out? I don't know.
So I mean, it wouldn't change. Like if there's media or whatever that has already been made, you know, I'd still watch or listen. again, obviously new. There's probably going to be if they get busted for it, they're going to be spending a lot of money to fight it or to be in jail or whatever. So you don't really have to worry about money going back in their pocket funding something. It sucked, but you know, I
think we can all be honest here. We're not
the view of that person would change, but my interests would not.
I think we'd be lying if we said that we wouldn't appreciate the art created.
There's a great
just because there was an involvement in it, you know, like I don't think that many people would. I think people probably say they would, in taking a stance like, oh, I'll no longer support anything that person does. But realistically, you don't know what that person's tied to and other things you might do. We talked about it in some aspect on the show before, and I can't remember, but let's put it in more of a situation where you might, you're not directly giving them money, but you are in support. So say it's, I don't want to bash any names. We'll say Firehouse Subs because it's not anyone local. We're going to bash their name.
Now owned by Burger King.
Your favorite or whatever it is, your favorite fast food place.
Mm-hmm.
You find out Taco Bell, the owner of Taco Bell, is a dickhead, and he hunts animals illegally.
I was gonna say Jimmy John's.
Jimmy John's.
That's what it was that you were talking about before.
Jimmy John. Okay, so I don't know if you really like Jimmy John. So let's just say you love Jimmy John's. It's your most favorite sub place out there.
A big wild game.
And so the owner of Jimmy John's has been in trouble for hunting on reservation, like where animals are protected. He hunts them to put them on his wall. He enjoys that. Now, Jimmy John's is your most favorite restaurant in the whole world. Do you stop going there?
No.
Yeah, me either.
No,
I wouldn't.
Yeah, no,
because
I can think he's a piece of shit, but also enjoy the food to begin with.
Now
I've stopped eating there. I haven't eaten there since I found that out.
Oh, I still do. I eat there all the time. But here's the thing: the only way it would change for me is if Jimmy John's was a one-off local establishment where I knew I was going there and like he was there. Jimmy John's is a huge franchise. I'm never going to see him. He's plenty of people are putting money in that man's pocket. It ain't stopping.
Mm-hmm.
But you tell me the one that's located in Talmadge Square or Circle is the only Jimmy John's. He's the owner. He actually works there and makes the food. I'm not going there. Well, at that level, it's much different. Like it's a very close, personal, money in his pocket type situation.
Yeah.
Going to a franchise that some other person opened that bought that to start that. I'm not going to stop going there.
Chick-fil-A is the same way. Like, you know, they put money into like conversion therapies, for Christ's sake, which I think is the worst thing in the fucking world, bar none. And to me, it's like, I still buy their food. I just think they're horrible fucking people.
I mean, you should stop buying the food just because their food sucks.
But I get
it's very overrated, is what I will say. It's not the greatest chicken sandwich I've ever had. I wanted to bring up something. Speaking of Stand By Me, I brought it up earlier. Will Wheaton, who's the star of that, he plays Gordy in the show. Somebody asked him a while back. I saw this on Facebook. Somebody asked him about cancel culture in particular. And the question, it's a long question, so I'm just going to summarize it into: how do you feel about somebody who is revealed to have done something? Do you still support that artist, or do you disown them completely? And his answer, it's a lot shorter of a one, so I'm going to read this whole thing.
Yeah.
He says, I'm not the Pope of Chilltown, so take this for what it's worth. I believe that when some piece of art is deeply meaningful to a person, for whatever reason, that art doesn't belong to the person who created it, if it ever did. It belongs to the person who found something meaningful in the art to begin with.
I like that answer.
That to me summarizes everything that I think is right.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
I don't think that I don't think most people. And then people would say that they might stop because they want to come off as like standing up for something. I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, people are still going to support the thing that they love.
Yeah.
Because you can separate the art out from the creator.
Well, Chick-fil-A is not shutting down tomorrow.
No,
it's not happening.
Yeah. So, but with that being said, yeah, like you said, brand new or something like that. If it was someone I was closely tied to, obviously my views on that individual would change. But
you'd view them differently.
But I would still continue to listen to their music because it's had a very big impact on my life.
Yeah.
I appreciate the art in itself. And as much as it's sad and upsetting that they'd done something like that, it's not somebody I know. I mean, that's really awful to say, but it doesn't really affect me on a day-to-day life. Now, if you told me,
okay, so what if I did, like, say I was
going to
busted?
say, now tell me it's somebody I love and it was someone I directly knew. There's no way. Cut off. Because at that point, it's a reminder of that. When I listen to Brand New, I'm not going to think about the fact that he was involved in something on Epstein's Island every time I listen to it, because it's not closely tied to me. Now, you tell me that the lead singer of that band sexually harassed someone I knew personally, a friend or family member. At that point, I can't, because it's going to
because it's personal.
Because at that point, it's personal. At that point, that point when I hear that, I'm going to know, well, man, my cousin was sexually assaulted by that person. At that point, it's so close to chest. It would just be an awful reminder. And at that point, you separate out the joy from that art to now you have this awful thing tied to it because it's on a personal level. We're not tied to these people in any sort of way that it doesn't affect us like that.
The only thing I'll say that I disagreed with everything that you said there. The only thing I disagree with is that when I see this person or I hear their music and all that, I won't think about what they did. Like, as far as bad, I'm guilty of that every single time. So a good example is that red jumpsuit apparatus. The fucking lead singer is Ronnie, a fucking dirtbag.
I used to play Xbox with him.
No, you didn't.
I swear I did.
No fucking way.
I did.
That guy's a piece of shit.
I don't know that.
So he was busted. I'm not going to get into the details, but child pornography, all this bullshit.
Red jumpsuit apparatus, Ronnie?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I didn't know that.
So basically a big ordeal went down over it. So now every time I hear red jumpsuit apparatus on the radio, I can listen to that song, but at the same time, I can't escape that in the back of my mind, knowing that, like, and with that sense, like, I'll sing along to it, but I also feel a sense of dirtiness when I do. Like, I'm like,
I get that.
Man.
Yeah, I guess it would depend on what it is, but it's not. It doesn't affect us on a personal level. We've talked about it with lots of different examples of things that, like, we take a stand, but unless it affects you personally, you move on.
That's an interesting take, but I actually like that take that you said. Yeah, I think if it's more personal, people will obviously be more personal with it.
Yeah,
that's true.
Otherwise it's just, it's sad and doesn't make the crime any less
meaningful.
But it doesn't affect you. You forget about it. You move on. Just like the things that people go out and protest about. Unless it's close to vest, you eventually just move on from it. You kind of forget about it. So. But yeah, so that's going on. We'll see what comes of this, this case with Maxwell, and I'm curious to see what kind of deal she's pleaded. There's got to be something. She's definitely taken some kind of plea bargain to participate and give names and things. We'll see what happens. The other big case that we talked about last week, or we've been talking about on and off for the last couple weeks, is it was last week, the shooting that took place in Michigan. I was thinking of Rittenhouse for a second. It was last week. We talked about this school shooting that happened in Michigan, 15-year-old kid, and the three of us kind of talked on here about what we could do better, kind of blame, and then more news has come out since then, with the parents were being charged with involuntary manslaughter for 4 counts for the four people that passed away. And then
what a precedent.
Huge. And then the parents actually were fugitives. It got announced that they were being charged, and then they fled.
Emptied their bank accounts and
they took off.
Which doesn't look good. That looks bad from the start.
No. So my thing is, because we didn't know this last week. And then this news came out, and me, you, and Jesse were talking about our take on it and things. And I've talked to some other people about it. I'm kind of curious your guys' stand on the parents being charged. If you think that's right, if you think that they are guilty, or if this is correct, because my stance was 100%. I mean, I even said last week, before I knew they were being charged, hold the parents accountable, because you have to be responsible for your children's actions. And I've heard both sides. I've heard no, they're not to blame, like the kid did their own thing. And then there's my stance, and maybe both yours, is it might be in agreement or to some agreement, is I think as a parent, you're responsible for your minor children. That is a child. As a parent, you take on that responsibility to enforce, the right, instilling in them the right and wrong in life, and participate in knowing what goes on in their life. And there's a lot of information that has come out that was pure negligence on their part. You know, things that they knew, that they've voiced, that they've known. I don't know if we talked about it on the show last week where the mom was like, just don't get caught next time. Like, that's complete arrogant. Anyhow, I'm glad they're being held accountable. I think that they are guilty. What are your guys' thoughts? Do you think that that this is the right thing to do? Like Chris said, it's a big precedent. Or do you think that this falls on the child and that it's wrong to hold the parents accountable for the death of these other kids?
I would say so. With the details that have come out about this, they said that the father bought the gun specifically for his son.
It was a Christmas gift,
and he had open access to use it whenever he wanted. This is a case of parental negligence. If
He's got my answer already.
If the kid sourced the gun all on his own, entirely on his own, his parents absolutely had no idea. It's that responsibility shouldn't fall on the parents.
This situation,
but this particular
and now
situation,
you have the rest of my answer.
Yeah, this not every case it's going to be the parents' blame.
It's there. So, and the fact that, I mean, they were on the same day that this happened, they were called down to talk about his actions.
Not the first time either.
And then they didn't sit there and say, oh, he doesn't have his gun with him, or he has access, but we have it locked away.
They didn't even check.
I know.
They didn't even check his book bag.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's absolutely the parents' fault, and I'm glad that they're getting charged, and I hope they don't get off, for nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, this is ridiculous. 4 kids died, because they did not act on the completely obvious signs that something was going to happen or something was wrong.
Yeah. Before we go to Chris, just to make it clear, I'm talking this one specifically. I'm not saying anytime anything happens that the parents are responsible, because that might have come off that way. This specific situation, these parents are idiots. Christopher.
And now get ready for the longest echo of your life.
No, go ahead.
All right, let's move on to the next.
I want to hear your take.
A precedent, because it instills a consistency that it's going to be that way from now on. As a result, I don't support that, because to me, this is a trial by error kind of thing, to where, like, we've seen the instances of what happened. You know, the boy had drawings. You know, he showed himself, you know, shooting up school kids, I believe was some of it.
Well, that morning they found a drawing of him with a picture of a gun and a picture of someone bleeding.
Yeah,
like a drawing that depicted someone was that same day.
That's a warning sign to me. So like that was there, the documentation that Dan spoke of, that Ryan spoke of, as far as, you know, they've confronted the parents. They've said, like, you know, we're worried about this. We're showing concern about, you know, his actions and everything that's going on. They're kind of brushing it off. And then the mother saying, this is the biggest thing to me. This is the biggest magic bullet to me, because it's her saying, don't get caught. It's basically saying, like, do whatever you got to do. Just don't get caught for it.
You got to learn better to not get caught or something ignorant like that.
And there's been rumor as far as what she meant by that was that in terms of, like, you know, doing that online, or doing the drawings themselves, or doing the actions themselves. The thing is, kids are impressionable minds. So when you say something like that for one thing, it means that for everything. A precedent, as I just said. So to me, in that particular instance, I'm going to echo in Dan's favor here. Like, that particular instance, those parents are liable. Just as much as that child is, if not more, because they're not impressionable minds. They're a fully developed cerebral. So to them, they know what this leads to. They should have thought about this beforehand. They should have never gotten the gun to begin with. I know those are Christmas gifts, but that's ridiculous. That's putting it in a kid's hand who has shown a history of incapability for being mature enough to handle something like that. So yeah, I think they're guilty. As far as other cases go in the future, I guess you'd have to know the details, because to me, if a parent if a kid breaks into their dad's safe, steals a gun in the middle of the night, brings it to school the next day, shoots up the school and all that, I don't know if I would blame the parents for that, because to me, like, they've done everything they can. They've locked it up. They've kept it away from them. The kid finds out where they are. Any kid can do that. I wouldn't blame parents for that, because they had no warning sign of it. Certainly, they probably would have taken it away even further had they known.
Yeah.
But that's a different case altogether for me. That's why I said, as a precedent, I don't really support it. as a one-time instance for this particular case, absolutely I do.
So I got two rebuttals. One, I'm going to play devil's advocate, and then you guys can act on my defense as my stance, but I'm going to play the second party.
Okay.
First off, with the precedent and going forward, I agree and I don't agree. I like that this sets a precedent because this sets the precedent for parents to start taking it serious, to understand what your kids are doing, understand their behavior, understand that if you have a gun in the home, that there's a good chance now you are going to be held responsible.
That's why
in
you
the
do
past
that.
you haven't.
Yeah.
So I do like the precedent just in that fact. Like, hey, shit, I've got guns in my home now. I need to think about, fuck, if my kid did something with this, I might get held accountable.
Sure.
So I think we need to have that because owning a firearm is a big deal, especially when you have young children in your home. If you have your guns secured properly, your kid ain't just breaking into that safe and getting them.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a real gun safe, they're not easy to get into. A lot of them are biometric or fingerprint, or they have a key code. Your kids shouldn't have easy access to the gun, and if they do, there's a problem. So in that aspect, I mean, I agree. Like, every school shooting doesn't mean the parent should be guilty. And in that aspect of your comment about what it sets going forward, I 100% agree.
They don't show signs like their kid's a straight A student. He's a
100%.
Real open-ended guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
I 100% agree in that case. It's not. You got to look at it a case-by-case standard. Were there signs? Okay, this kid had this in this specific case. These parents have been informed multiple occasions that the kid had behavioral issues. He's drawing pictures of violence at
acts.
school. He's looking up guns and ammo at school. You know that there's issues with this kid, and you've purchased a gun for him. You don't know where the gun is at. You're not holding accountable where the gun is at. So with all that being said, in conversation that I had with someone about this, they've said the following: drawing a picture of a gun and in violence is not breaking the law. That all of us have probably drawn some sort of picture like that before as a kid, and that doesn't mean that we're guilty of doing a school shooting. No. That buying a gun or owning a gun that you're going to shoot with your child isn't breaking the law, that they shouldn't be held accountable for that. That what type of behavior was the kid exhibiting, that they are going to feel guilty. Do we have enough evidence that we can hold these parents? We're going to charge them with manslaughter. Was the evidence exhibited enough to fully hold them to hold them guilty or to hold them accountable for these actions?
Absolutely, because the people who look at it that way are looking at these elements as individualized. They're not looking at them as a bigger picture. So you're adding a bunch of combustible ingredients to a simmering pot. And what happens is once those ingredients are put toward one, you see the bigger picture of it all and you go, wow, this baby's about to blow.
Yep.
That's why. No, drawing a picture of a violent act by itself is not a sign. But if I have a gun in my hand and I'm going to school every day and I have an aggravated history of lashing out against my fellow students and all that, you might want to look at that and go, yeah, there's a few check marks here. Like we're doing one after another and it's just growing. One by itself, absolutely not. But as a whole,
combined together,
yes,
absolutely. And that's where I'm at. I 100% agree. These are multiple red flags.
Yeah.
There wasn't one-off red flag. You have a series and you have it over a course of multiple actions.
Mm-hmm.
This point, we need to be more involved. I would like to know in these conversations that the school had with the parents, if it was ever brought up that he had a gun previous.
Yeah.
Because, or even that morning that he owned a firearm. Because if they knew, let's say they never knew before, and then that Tuesday morning, when the parents got called to the school and they found this drawing, if the parents now said he owns a gun, you'd think to check him right then. They didn't check him. They let him go back to class. If they would have just checked his book bag that day in the office, this would never have happened.
I think the school board would have to not know. At least I would hope so, because if they had known all this, there's so many check marks that I would also say they're kind of to blame for this too then.
Yeah. And apparently there was when news came out about this, the dad texted the kid and said something along those lines of like, don't do it. Like the day of the shooting. I don't know if it was after the fact or whatever, but it was in one of the articles. And I'm just like, this whole thing is just fucked up, man. So that, I mean, and
I want to hear Dan's opinion on
the other side is they ran away.
Mm-hmm.
if you weren't guilty of anything, you ain't running away.
No.
You ain't becoming a fugitive.
No, that it makes them look bad.
No, I was gonna
Daniel
pretty
Sandmann.
much echo exactly what you said. Like it's
On
each
the
individual
individual.
occurrence.
Yeah.
There's no,
Yeah.
you can't. But
Yeah.
the conversations had been had over a period of time, and I think the negligence in the parents not finding that gun and taking it away. I mean, that's the accountability right there. You know that he has these lashing out episodes
A
or
recorded history.
behavioral tendencies.
you gotta take any possible chance to cause harm to somebody else away from that person
Yeah.
and have the conversation, talk with them. If they're drawing these pictures, talk to them, find out why.
Yeah.
Like what are you seeing? Why are you drawing this? Like I know it's probably hard for some people to have those conversations, but to hold the accountability, you've gotta open your ears and have those.
Because nobody wants to believe that their kid is that kid.
Yep.
That's a lot of it. So when you see like your child drawing like these gruesome acts or something like that, you go, oh, it's artistic. Maybe there'll be a comic book writer one day or something like that. That's the easiest front to supplant. And that's how a lot of this stuff gets through the cracks. It's really that parents have to hold that accountability and go like, man, like where did we fuck up?
Yep.
No
parent wants to think of their kid as being the school shooter.
Yeah.
But again, like your point, it's multiple things. If he was just doing drawings and he liked to draw and that was one of the things he drew because it was after video game, okay, one-off thing, maybe I'm not going to think anything of it. But you add all these together, it looks bad.
Yeah.
And you have to be accountable for your kids, man. 15 years old, these parents are obviously setting a precedent that they're going to back him regardless. The whole like don't get caught, that's not parenting. Your kid is looking up ammunition while at school, and all you tell them is to don't get caught.
Yeah,
that is just awful.
What a bad way to put it.
It's just a terrible situation that it truthfully could have been prevented. Searching his book bag that day when that morning, they found the drawing. The parents were there for another conversation, third or fourth conversation with them. It's awful. And I think it's as sad as it is. I think that they need to be held accountable. And I don't know what you get for that. But
I mean, 4 times.
Four counts of involuntary manslaughter. It's jail time for sure.
That would thrust me into like annoyance to the point where I'm like, look, knock this fucking shit off, man.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Oh, the kid getting in trouble.
Yeah. Like we have to be called down here every time this happens. Knock it off.
And you're buying him guns for gifts?
Yeah.
What? Give me a fucking break. It's negligent.
Yeah.
It's just pure negligent. I don't know how you could say they're not responsible at some point. I think you're responsible for your kid's actions as a parent.
I think these two are definitely guilty. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's got to be case by case. It's got to be
everything has got to be looked at on its own individual basis. Like what signs were there, what wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
But also to that point, now this is just hypothetical, but how many school shootings happen when there's no signs at all that this kid was troubled? I don't think we're seeing straight A non-troubled kids going to school and shooting them up.
I mean, I guess it's just access to the information because like kids are getting jumped, after school and all that.
But your parents don't know. You have to be really
disconnected,
separated from your child's lives to not know that they're not being bullied at school.
Yeah.
Their grades are bad. I mean, you have to really be an awful
grades
parent.
is a different thing. Absolutely. I'll give you grades, but there's
bullying. I
didn't want to tell mine. Yeah. Cause my dad and stepmom, they just ignored it. So yeah.
There's got to be, you just have to be really disconnected.
Yeah.
You're those parents the sad part is it's the parents nowadays who put their kid in front of an iPad and want nothing to do with what they're doing.
It's a babysitter.
And they probably don't know what's going on with their kids' lives, but you have to be really disconnected to not know any signs whatsoever. It's not perfect kids going to shoot up their school. It's not happy-go-lucky kids who are participating in life as normal that are going and doing it. There's got to be some sort of sign. So just pay attention to your kids, man. If you're gonna have kids, be a parent, be involved. Schools, need to do what they can to also try and to be available, like we talked last week. But we don't gotta beat a dead horse. We'll see what happens with that. If anything comes out, I would imagine, sooner than later. They got caught. So I'm sure there'll be some kind of trial or something here soon for that. Christopher, you want to finish us off with Hollywood Report?
I'll finish you off.
All right.
My God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm. What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure? Stay calm! Wait. Everybody, calm down! Two Steve, assemble!
You got to hit me with like your next favorite pose for your banner.
Oh yeah.
I need like the best Chris face. What's going on, sir? What do we got going on in the Hollywood Report?
I'll work on that. But for now, after some depressing news, I want to start with some awesome news.
Let's do it.
And that's we're going to go over to the MCU like we always do at this time and talk about Daredevil. So Daredevil, the Netflix series, did we all see all 3 seasons of that?
I did.
Yeah. What'd you guys think of that first off?
Super fantastic.
Yeah.
I liked it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. All 3 seasons. It's that rare case where usually with like the Marvel Netflix series, like you'll have one season that's highly inferior to the other one or the other 2. This one across the board, solid. And A or better each time. I felt that way about the 2 seasons of The Punisher too. But Daredevil I felt was even better. It was on a whole other level that these Disney Plus shows can't even touch. So Kevin Feige was asked this week about Daredevil and Charlie Cox, the man that plays Matt Murdock. Is there any way that you have plans to work him into this universe? Are you going to recast Daredevil if you ever, have him appear down the line? And he says specifically in this quote, Charlie Cox is our Daredevil. This is awesome for a lot of reasons that are seen and not seen. I want to break down a couple. So obviously we're going to continue with Charlie Cox playing Matt Murdock. That's great by itself. If we get another season, if we get appearances of him in movies, that's fine.
Awesome.
I have a theory that he is in the new Spider-Man movie. That's hardly here nor there. We'll see about that later. And I feel like this time is very precocious as far as why this was brought up now at this time. It just seems odd because Daredevil hasn't been on the air for 3 years now. But now all of a sudden it's being brought up about Charlie Cox to the man in charge. The other thing I think that people aren't realizing about this is not only is Daredevil and Charlie Cox's Daredevil canon, all these properties are canon now. John Bernthal's Punisher is canon. How can he not be, if Charlie is?
Right.
They're in the same universe. So how can you take one or a few instruments from one and not the other? I think that's great because we could get more seasons of the Punisher. We could get a Punisher movie. You could talk about Jessica Jones. You could bring these things in. I hope they leave Iron Fist alone. I don't want anything to do with that. But no, I just think it's cool because now we're finally, it seems like for the first time ever, Kevin Feige is playing into the argument that these shows very much existed in the same world that the MCU did. I think that's pretty cool. What about you guys?
No, that's exciting. I love the Daredevil. I couldn't wait for the next seasons to come.
Me too.
I think that's what started like a lot of the big interest in some of these Marvel movies and miniseries.
Yeah,
like those were the best of the bunch. Like the WB ones, or not WB, but some of those other ones. CWs, yeah.
I know exactly. Yeah,
those were garbage to me. But
Arrow
these held some like substance.
Yeah, and production value.
So especially Punisher too. So yeah, I think that's exciting news. I can't wait to see how or when it gets implemented.
Yeah,
I'd like to see on Disney Plus another Punisher.
I would too. That's so interesting too, because like the Punisher, the tonal wise of like Punisher, even you can even say Daredevil, because they're both violent shows. They're both gruesome. Like, how does that fit into the Disney umbrella? That's what I'm curious about. Will this work in this universe? That's the side of me that's kind of the skeptic.
Yeah. Maybe not. I mean, with Venom, the darkness of Venom kind of piggybacking that.
And they're going to have to address that sooner or later because Venom's a totally different movie than Spider-Man. I want to get your opinion too, Ryan.
I got a couple things. One, I'm super excited for it, but I'm pissed off you made us wait to know because I've been dwelling over the fact we were just talking about this like a couple days ago.
I'm surprised that
You
fucking
didn't tell me.
Jesse didn't reveal it, because every time I have something to talk about, he spoils it in our group chat.
We were just talking about how I wish they'd bring back Daredevil and Punisher. Those shows were so good, and I didn't know anything about this. So that's super exciting. As far as implementing into the MCU, I don't really know how I feel about that. To me, they feel like two completely different realms,
Totally.
in universes. You know, they don't seem to be the same type of thing. I don't think it'll hurt, but I like Daredevil and Punisher as their own thing, the way that they currently are in the series that they were on Netflix.
Yeah.
I loved both of them. I would love to see more of them. I think who they cast for both those roles, they did a fantastic job.
Perfect.
So I wouldn't mind them turning them into a movie. I wouldn't mind if they continue the series as is. I don't know how they turn it into
Disney Plus.
I don't know how they bring it into the Disney Plus or the MCU. I
I'm
don't know how
just
they
saying,
bring.
just
No, I know, but I mean, I don't know how they. It just seems like two completely separate properties. I don't know if it's in the type of story or how it's written. It feels like its own thing. Like I don't see Daredevil and Punisher being a part of fucking Captain America and
that's not what I was meaning.
You
though.
know,
I mean,
but
I'm saying bring it over to Disney Plus. The way Disney is putting the productions with these miniseries.
Yeah.
But like tying it into the
character
MCU,
developments,
I don't see that.
Tying it directly into I mean, I could see it tying them into Venom and Venom into Spider-Man, but I don't see it going beyond that.
Yeah, it's interesting because it does kind of bring up that conundrum. Like, how do you address this? And Kevin Feige hasn't said that he's going to bring it specifically to Disney Plus.
Yeah.
It's just that he said that this is our Daredevil. We're not going to cast another Daredevil. He's our Daredevil. Like, so I think that's great. You know, that's a fan answer too, to say like, you know, he knows the fans love this series. He knows that they've been following this franchise for a long time.
Right.
But now he has to figure out where that fits. Does that fit into terms of movies? Does that fit in terms of shows? To me, honestly, and I know this is probably going to be hard to swallow, especially for people that know Disney and how they treat their properties. I almost wish that they would just go to Netflix and say, like, look, just keep doing what you're doing. We'll front the production values and all this. We just feel like it works better on Netflix than it does on our kid-friendly Disney Plus show. We'll front the budget and all that and everything. You know, we get a slice of the pie for so many downloads or watches and all that. Like, just keep it on Netflix.
I like that.
Yeah.
Netflix did a fantastic job with it.
I agree.
And I think that there's more. Obviously, they're not going to reveal it, but there's more to it than they know. For him to come out and say that these actors are continuing the role, they're not just fucking dangling that over them. Right. They need to make money. So there's obviously something in the works that he knows about, that they know about, that's being made or in contractual agreements. Not, oh yeah, he's going to be our Daredevil for whenever we decide we want to make one.
The time is quite peculiar.
He signed into something.
When I heard this, I immediately thought, I'm like, and we've got a movie coming out next week, as a matter of fact. Wow, it's interesting that this was brought up.
Could you see him in that, though? You really think?
Yeah, because him and like Daredevil and Spider-Man, like that goes back to the origins of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like for people that don't know, like Matt Murdock was like one of the first villains in the Spider-Man universe.
Yeah. Is he going to be the Sixth Sinister Six?
I don't know how you do it, but I think maybe he'll just show up as a lawyer or something. He'll be Charlie Cox. He won't be Daredevil.
Yeah. That'd be cool though.
Yeah. But I thought that was solid news.
Yeah, that's great. It's great news.
We're going to transition to some more MCU news while we're on this topic. Hawkeye has come out. It's been out now for 3 episodes. The third episode dropped last week. The 4th will be out tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
I wanted to talk about this a little bit. Obviously, there's going to be 6 episodes throughout the series. That was announced a long time ago. So we're halfway into this show right now. I've seen all 3. How about you guys?
I've seen all 3.
Okay. Brian, just 2?
I only watched 2, and I half-ass watched the first 2.
Okay.
But you and Dan can chalk it up.
Well, I want to get your opinions too, because I know we have some differing opinions. So throwing it out there, let's go ahead and state the obvious. I am in love with Haley Steinfeld. It's been documented on more than 3,000 occasions.
Yeah.
With that said, I'd like to think that I am a solid enough critic that like I can watch something of hers. I've watched movies of hers that I think are terrible. Pitch Perfect 3 is fucking awful. So I like to think that I can watch things and grade them as it is. With that said, I enjoy the hell out of this show. I really do. There's a few problems I will get to here in a second, but as far as to talk about the positivity of it, the banter between Jeremy Renner and Haley Steinfeld, the chemistry is perfect. It really is father-daughter, but to a point that it's also kind of carries an edge with it too. Not necessarily an R-rated one, but one to where they get under each other's skin, and you love that. It's very much a buddy cop movie in that impression. I also think that the characterization of it all, I love that there's actually stakes in this universe. So I'm not a fan of Iron Man 3, but the one thing I'll say that Iron Man 3 did right is that it showed that Tony Stark had trauma after the events of the Avengers. And that's very much the case in these first couple episodes. We see that Clint Barton has a hearing aid. His hearing has gone bad as a result of being in all of these action juggernaut scenes and all that. So I like that. It kind of carries continuity with it from the movies themselves and transitions over to the Disney Plus property itself. I love the costumes. I love the camera work. I think is solid there. The story itself, I love that it's at Christmas. I feel like that adds an untouched element that Marvel hasn't really capitalized on yet.
Right.
Oddly enough, it feels like holidays almost don't exist in these movies to this point. And I like that they're capitalized on it. I think it works perfectly for Clint Barton's narrative of I'll be home for the holidays, with my family. That's an ages old formula, but when seen through superhero eyes, perfect. Now my critiques for it all. I feel like while the action is solid as far as the sequencing goes of it and everything, I feel like the green screen work is very shoddy at best. It's very poor. It's very obvious, and it feels one-dimensional in terms of what they could do with it. This is where you're almost reminded of a Disney Plus budget. And I wish that they would have put a little more into it. Loki's green screen was there, but it never looked that bad to me. Same with WandaVision. It looked like a movie.
I think the car scene is what really just
on the
brought
bridge.
it forward. Yeah. I think that green screen execution was terrible. I know it's a tough thing to shoot.
It's fucking Disney, man.
Spinning the camera around inside of a car and continuing the action.
That one take scene where it goes around.
I mean, that's where I noticed the green screen, the city background, and the cars. It's like you're in a video game.
Yeah.
Just
and
I don't know.
I almost wonder if it was a lighting thing, because they shot on scene. Like they shot in New York City for all of this. Like I was following the production very closely, and I don't understand why they made some of these decisions. I also wanted to get just your opinions on everything. So after 3 episodes, how you feel about it?
I still think it's more of a Haley Steinfeld focused
more than Clint.
I mean, the character he's portraying, the version of the character he's portraying is like, I just want to be left alone. I don't want to be in the spotlight. I don't want to do this. It's really like the up and coming character development of her, more so Hawkeye.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing for you?
Well, considering that the show is called Hawkeye, I was expecting more of a storyline focused around Hawkeye rather than the next one up, I guess. I don't know. The villain, I'm not really understanding too much as far as the villain.
I don't think we know fully the villain yet, though.
There's that story arc that comes in with I don't know her character name.
Well, she's not the villain.
Well, I know she.
I can already tell she's not.
I know who it might be, but
yeah,
like the way she comes in, it's just very strange.
Yeah, it's almost like that felt like a padding episode to me. I'm not saying episode 3 wasn't good. In my opinion, it's the best of the 3 episodes. But to me, it almost feels like they did that Netflix formula where we're going to waste an episode on one character that hasn't really formatted an opinion yet into this world.
And she's deaf, so you're like,
right,
trying to.
And real deaf, like in real life.
Yeah. And I'm trying to follow the scenes that she's in and what's being said. And I don't know, any more subtitles, I guess, for me.
Having trouble following. Yeah. Ryan, what did you think of the first 2 episodes?
I give it a 6 right now. I don't love it. The stories just felt kind of dry to me at this point. I echo what Dana said about it being more based around Haley's character. What's her character's name?
Kate Bishop.
Yeah. So more focused on her than Hawkeye. Much like you, Hawkeye is one of, if not my favorite Avengers character. So I was looking for a dark reincarnation of him and kind of that vengeance that he took after what happened in like Infinity War and stuff.
Yeah.
And he just is like a sit back, you know, he's kind of the mentor and he's going to train her to keep her safe kind of thing, which I just don't love yet. Maybe the story goes further and it gets better. I will watch the entire series. I just haven't got to last week's yet. But outside of that, the second biggest flaw for me is the production value. I feel like you could almost compare this to, I mean, as we're talking about Punisher and Daredevil, you would take that and then you look at, like Dan said with CW, let's say Arrow.
Yeah.
This feels like Arrow compared to like a Daredevil, which Daredevil, the series on Netflix, was done extremely well. And Arrow is kind of a cheesy, low budget. That's how I felt when I watched it.
And from a Daredevil perspective, it's so much tougher to make that look appealing because everything's shot in the dark. Everything's darker tones, obviously. So yeah, that's a good point.
It's just like it felt so much more. It felt more well done. Like this feels like a low budget. I mean, this feels like a TV show, and I know it's a TV show. But when I think of Marvel and I think of Disney, I feel like I was expecting to go in to see like a multi-part movie, you know, like short movies, and it just doesn't feel that well done.
You make a great point there because the one positive I'll say about Falcon and Winter Soldier is it feels like a movie.
Yeah,
like that first action sequence when they're going through the mountains and all that, it really does feel like you could be watching this on the big screen.
Yeah,
you're right.
I don't know. There's just certain parts about it that it just doesn't look that great done, you know, and it's just not holding my interest as much as I wanted to when I heard like, oh yeah, Hawkeye's getting his own show, you know, like I was super excited for the other 3 properties they've released so far, you know, Loki, WandaVision, and then Winter Soldier. And this one, I was let down. So I'm hoping it comes around. It's one of my least favorite Marvel things they've released so far. And I hope that it finishes strong. I need to catch up on third one so I can watch the 4th one tomorrow. So maybe I'll do that today. But I don't hate it. I just don't love it. You know, I'm not a huge fan just yet. Granted, this is off 2 episodes.
Yeah,
you guys are an episode ahead of me. There's still a half a series left. It might come around. In the show's defense, I had to watch the first episode of WandaVision like 4 times before I gave that series a chance. So it took me a little bit longer to get into these shows than I expected. So maybe if I give this another try, I will enjoy it more.
Well, it's interesting because like, you know, we've all watched, you know, like me and Dan have watched 3, you've watched 2, but we all seem to have different opinions of it, which is I find kind of compelling. I love the hell out of it. Dan has some critiques for it. You have, it seems like, more critiques than positives about it, which is great. I think that's just interesting. That's one thing I always find fascinating about movies and cinema as a whole. As far as you brought up, like the other properties, like the WandaVisions, the Lokis, Falcon and Winter Soldier, where I think it's too early to rank this personally, as you said, but I think when I grade them all, as far as the first 3 episodes that I watched of each series right now, I would say I like this below WandaVision, but I like it more than Loki and Falcon and Winter Soldier. I didn't like Falcon and Winter Soldier.
What do you attest that? Is it the story? What about it is more appealing to you than those other properties?
Honestly, to me, it feels like we got back to the ground floor of superhero as far as the attitude, the tonal complexities of it all. This is mostly a comedic series. I don't think anybody would disagree on that. It's comedy as a whole, and I feel like the comedy is so sharply written that they get on each other's nerves. They have that self-loathing kind of humor. You know,
when he lost the hearing aid in there, that I thought was awesome.
And he just keeps it out. Like he doesn't want to fucking hear her. Like he just doesn't want to fucking hear her in that diner and all that. And I love the camera work too at that part where it's like POV perception. So like you're seeing Kate the way he sees her. That led to some great shots for me. But
freeze frame.
I think though, as far as judging them on WandaVision, like from the second it started, I was hooked. Now I know for a lot of people, like they were kind of thrown off by the first episode because there wasn't a lot of answers. I'm of the school, like as a guy who loves independent movies, I like searching and digging for the answers. I don't like it to be spoon fed to me. I hate that shit. I think anybody who reads my reviews knows that argument lends itself to me as a whole. So WandaVision was perfect because there were clues. You just didn't know how to put them all together. And then as the show went on, you go, okay, I see how everything fits now. I get this. It's starting to materialize into something perfect or damn near perfect. I don't know if this show will ever touch that for me personally, but I feel like it has currently after 3 episodes, it is the second best Disney Plus show to me. Loki, it took me a while to get on board. It was probably around episode 4 or 5. I think the ending of that is awesome with the new villain that they introduced and everything. It's certainly the opening for the next phase of Marvel movies as to where the movies have been kind of stagnant in their direction. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Right about now, I'd say I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10.
Wow.
As far as where I sit after 3 episodes, you said a 6,
I got a
right?
6, Dan. What do you say?
I definitely would rank probably of the shows, probably number 3. WandaVision, I'd put number 1. 2 is I'd probably put Loki at number 2. Again, Falcon and Winter Soldier, I wasn't a big fan of. I mean, it was good.
It was just kind of there for me. Like I never got invested.
I'd put this probably around. I'd go right in between you guys and do a 7.
Hey-o.
Yeah.
I think one of the things too with this one, just listening to you talk about the other properties is, I think my expectation was a lot higher. So like with WandaVision, Loki, and Winter Soldier, those characters were kind of backseat characters in the realm that they took place in the Avengers. They weren't the main forefront character. So when I thought of Hawkeye, I'm like, he's one of the main 6 Avengers, like star-studded.
He's one of the first, but he's always the background though.
But he's those properties consistent. Like he's in the action. You know him, like his story more. So I was expecting that coming into this show, like it'd be almost like if Captain America had his own show or Iron. Like that's the way I was looking at it. Like, big name Avenger having his own standalone. I'm pumped. And then that's just not what we got. We got this backstory to the buildup of, does her character, better than me? Does her character in the show, outside of the show and in just the realm of MCU, is she a main character ever in a storyline somewhere?
You talking the comics?
Just her, whoever she plays in this show.
Kate Bishop is a big character. Yeah, she's big in the comics. Obviously she's never been in the MCU. This is her first introduction. But yeah, she basically becomes Hawkeye. Like she is the Hawkeye who takes over. I don't know if that's the direction they're going.
That's where it kind of feels like they're setting this up to be a down the line. Like I almost see this like this is going to be a continued story, but Hawkeye is going to fall off and it's going to be about her. Like this is Hawkeye, but it's not him.
I don't want that. That to me, I would not like that. If this is Jeremy Renner's swan song, I'm not in favor.
That's
of
what
that.
I get out of this.
To me, like Kate Bishop is kind of her own thing. The one thing I love that they've done is they show that she's just as good of an archer as he is.
Yeah,
and that's really the way it is in the comics. Like she's known as the world's greatest archer. Like and to level that playing field, I think it matters for the integrity of her character, but I don't want her to be the next Hawkeye. That's always the direction in the comics I've never really liked. I understand people get old and you have to pass off the mantle, but there's only one Iron Man, there's only one Captain America, there's only one Hawkeye.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, so just thinking about that's kind of like I think I might have set my expectations high, just going into it with with WandaVision and those, I didn't have that high expectation because it was a side piece. So like it took me multiple times to get into that show because I didn't know much about. I knew her character from just the MCU, the series leading up to like the Avengers and stuff, and where they had their cameos within those movies. But I didn't know a ton, so I didn't have a high expectation of like going in and being like overwhelmed with it. Whereas with this, I really did just because it was Hawkeye.
That's interesting. Yeah. So, to me, he's always kind of been the background. And that's what I like about him. First of all, I just like that he's human. I flock more to human characters. That's why the Punisher has always been my favorite comic book character. Having all these gadgets and the ability to regenerate yourself and all that, that's cool and everything, but it's not realistic to me.
Right.
I see that and I go, well, that takes away all of the vulnerability of the character.
Right.
If Hawkeye,
there's nothing to lose at that point for them.
Right. If Hawkeye gets stabbed though, I go, man, he could die. Like he could die here. That's I always find that interesting. And so, Jeremy Renner's one of my favorites.
One character that I guess has confused me is the character of Ronan.
Oh yeah.
Like he's
So we touch on it slightly in episode 3, but I feel like we better get more. It's almost like they're hinting at more for that.
Even like in Endgame,
Mm-hmm.
when he was there shown briefly as Ronan before he came back.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ronan, is it a different Ronan from Guardians of the Galaxy?
No. Well, no. It's as far as his weapon and everything goes. No, it's that one. So you're wondering how they got it, how they got the weapon.
Well,
he dropped his weapon in Avengers.
Okay.
So like that's why they sold it. They auctioned it off. Ryan's seen that, so we can talk about.
Oh, you're
that.
good. I don't.
No, I mean, yeah, Hawkeye, when he was Ronan, he dropped the weapon.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's how they got it.
Mm-hmm.
But from Guardians of the Galaxy, wasn't Ronan one of Thanos's?
Yes, his right-hand man.
So I'm just confused as to like that story.
Well, he was also involved in the Avengers movie, the original Avengers, a 2012 one.
Mm-hmm.
So like he came down and he led a lot of that apocalypse, like a lot of those machines coming out of the sky and everything.
Right.
And then basically the only thing.
So where's Clint where does Clint take over that?
That's why I want to know why him,
character.
I don't feel like we've gotten answers to that yet. And I'm hoping that will play into the other 3 episodes.
I'm hoping so too.
Because when I saw that in Endgame, I was saying to myself, like, is he bad now because he lost his friends, or is he bad because this world has changed him? What's the reason for this now? So yeah, it's kind of unanswered. It's ambiguous.
Okay.
Right now.
I felt like in Endgame, it was an avenge story. That's what I gathered. That he took on that role it was an anger.
Mm-hmm.
He could, like, his character has always had this dark, I feel like, internal battle. Like he's had this anger in him.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think
his family away.
Yeah. And then that in Endgame, that just was it for him, and he went on this vengeful thing and became Ronin just to take out people.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of almost was like that anti-hero.
So
role.
So in Endgame, when Black Widow, when she
chose
jumped
to get him,
was that him now realizing that, okay, when I'm done here, I'm not going back to that Ronin life.
Mm-hmm.
My family's going to be back. I'm going to be with my family. I mean, I'm starting to piece it together a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
but you almost wish
there's a line that was said in episode 3 that I won't say, but that kind of hints back at that point where he changed again.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I think that needs more fleshing out. And I think just the consequences of losing Black Widow needs more fleshing out to him, because again, episode 3, they touch on it briefly, but you don't get like feelings as far as he's obviously carrying this grief inside of him, but they're not expanding on it even more. And I need that scene where, like, I don't need him bawling his eyes out, but I need him like really kind of opening himself up to Kate as far as he trusts her. And this is his first internal release that he's had, that, the first person he's been close to since Black Widow.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I say check it out though. I mean, obviously MCU fans are probably more than not gonna like it.
You think not?
No, I think more. I should have said more so than not going to like it.
Gotcha.
But give it a shot. Kate Bishop's a big character for comic book fans. I think Haley Steinfeld's casting is the perfect casting for her too, because she's very much that bubbly personality, and I feel like it works on and off the page.
Yeah.
Ryan, actually, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan because he's got something that I'm fascinated about, and that's a streaming war.
Oh yeah. So I thought this was interesting, and I kind of wanted your opinion on the way that this is lining up, because it seems kind of backwards from what we're used to as far as when it comes to streaming and like box office movies. So apparently Brad Pitt was cast to play a movie that's not made yet, and it's going to take place in Indy 500, like racing. So it's going to be a racing movie.
Regular Ford versus Ferrari.
So good. That's a fantastic movie.
Great sound.
I don't know too much details about like if it's going to be a true story, like based off of a certain racer or anything like that. But he's going to take place.
It's going to be Dale Jr. or Dale Sr.
Different type of racing. That's NASCAR.
That's true.
We're talking about like Indy 500.
Indy 500. I thought.
Yeah. Let me see.
Let's see. Brad Pitt. Who does he look like?
Formula One. Isn't that Indy 500? It's like the weird looking cars.
Yeah.
So it's going to be based on that. But apparently all the streaming services now are in a bidding war over taking on this movie, but they're not the ones making the movie. So I thought that was interesting that they're so far ahead of this before it's even made to want to be the platform that's going to eventually, I don't know if it's going to go direct to streaming, if it's going to go to theater and then also be an HBO box office for a month, like they've been doing with some of these other movies.
Well, this is how it typically goes with streaming movies. It's always like, Amazon outbids Netflix or Netflix outbids.
Yeah.
That's why Netflix is so much in the hole.
Is it normally like before the movie's even started?
Yeah.
Does it really start that early on?
If you get a script that's like, that they've read the script and they've seen what it's all about, they see stars attached to it, they're going to go after it wholeheartedly.
Okay.
Man. They're going to put every dollar they have into it and they want to be first.
Nice. Yeah. So I didn't really know how that worked. I figured it's like movies produced and now we're going to bid on who wants it to go where outside of being in theater.
Yeah.
Whereas this is early on to the point. He's just been cast. They know kind of what the story is going to be. And apparently Netflix, Amazon, Apple, and Disney are involved with wanting to take the streaming adaptation of this movie to their platform.
When Disney gets involved, they see something.
Well, yeah, I imagine the money's got to be pretty big. I was trying to see if it said in here really quickly, but it doesn't. But it's funny enough, your Ford versus Ferrari comment, a guy involved in this actually did that.
Oh, really?
Joseph Kosinski.
Oh, the cinematographer?
Yeah, so he did Top Gun and Ford versus Ferrari, and he's attached to this property. So
great work.
Wait, the new Top Gun that nobody's seen yet?
Yeah,
fucking
hopefully sooner or later. Fast paced. So it doesn't say if it's about anyone in particular, because that's kind of my thing. I was thinking maybe it's going to be based on a professional racer or something like that, because Formula One's kind of an interesting sport to make a movie after.
It's dry to me, but like Ford v Ferrari just did it, hit all my sweet spots.
Yeah, Ford versus Ferrari, but the Le Mans is a huge deal. Like the Le Mans race is a very well-known,
endurance,
prestigious race. Like Formula One, if it was a movie based on NASCAR, like Days of Thunder, NASCAR is one of the most popular like sports. People go and see that shit like crazy
in the US, but worldwide, Formula One is extremely big.
Yeah.
I mean, it's road racing. It's
Italy.
High velocity, high speed.
That's gonna. I don't know how they adapt that to a movie. It's gonna have to be about someone. It's got to. I got to imagine.
I would have to agree with you there, especially if these big name studios are seeing something in it. Like it either has to be that, or they're promising something behind the lens that's like firepower. Like the thing with Ford v Ferrari, it was very much its editing. It was its visuals, but that sound design was perfect, and it won the Oscar for it. That's the thing. It has to immerse you in that aspect.
Yeah.
This clearly has it in spades because so many companies are
big
auditioning.
Names,
man.
Yeah. I'd be curious to see what comes from it, though. I mean, Brad Pitt's obviously a big name.
Yeah.
So I mean, for him to take on the movie in itself says a lot. For the properties that are involved with wanting to obtain it, it's got to be. It says a lot. I'm sure they're keeping it quiet just because it's so early on still. But I'll look forward to it regardless, just to see what happens with it.
That's not the problem. What's the problem? That's not the problem. What's the problem?
So good, dude. Moneyball is one of my favorite movies, man. One of my favorite sports movies.
My number 2 that year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Such a good movie.
Behind the Avengers. So moving on here, I wanted to talk a little bit about, before handing the microphone back to Ryan, I want to talk about the Grammys a little bit, get into a little music news here. So Drake, obviously no unknown artist, if you've been paying attention the last 15 years, was nominated for 2 Grammys at this coming ceremony. Drake has always had kind of a tumultuous relationship with the Grammys themselves. They've always gone back and forth on social media, as far as Drake saying to be called out by, a room full of judges who think that, everything's based on opinion. It's not very much the art form of the artists themselves. So he's always been kind of contradictive toward that process. This year, as I said, he was nominated for 2 Grammys, and he has decided to take his name out of the running altogether. He has decided that he does not want the nominations, and he has asked the Academy to take him out completely, and they have obliged him. But instead of maybe bringing up a new artist to put in his place, the Academy said it's just going to be 4 nominations for that award. I wanted to get your guys' opinion both on Drake's side of this and the Academy's. Do you think this was handled in the right way possible? And did Drake put his money where his mouth is?
I don't know much about his relationship with them.
Mhm.
I saw this article and I'm glad you added it because I went to add it before you sent me your list because I saw it yesterday and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I think it says a lot about whatever stance he has.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's something between them that he isn't happy with. So to pull yourself from the possibility of a prestigious award like the Grammys is putting your money where your mouth is.
Don't get bigger.
You know, I guess two things. One, how does this affect the other parties involved? I mean, you're removing yourself, but there's other people involved with the production of this music that you're getting nominated for. So now you're kind of taking this from them as well as,
Good point.
you know, like, okay, maybe you're the producer on the soundtrack of the album or something, or, you know, like we talked with Virgil Abloh last week, maybe you're the art director and you're getting nominated for a Grammy because of that.
Yeah.
He pulled himself from it. So now you're affecting these other parties involved from that opportunity to be, to have that spotlight on them. So that, in that aspect, it sucks. Ultimately, it's Drake that was nominated. It's his music. It's his artistry. He has the ability to say, I don't want these people judging me, which it's primarily probably a bunch of white people. And he's like, fuck you. To that point, cool. Good for him if that's what he feels. I don't like the secondary part with the way it affects the other people that might have been involved. As far as them just doing 4, I agree with that. I wouldn't want to be the 5th person that got like thrown in because Drake fell out.
Sympathy vote.
Yeah, like if I wasn't in there, I'm not in there. Like just run with the 4 and leave it at that because you just got in because of Drake. And then, I mean, you're probably not going to win if you didn't even fucking make the cut. So why even be involved at that point? So
Dan, what's your opinions?
This is how you boycott an event. You pull yourself out.
That's a boycott. Wow. Yeah.
So I
refreshing.
I respect him for doing that, making a stand. I mean, at the end of the day, his albums get the downloads, they're getting the listens. Everybody knows who Drake is. To him, if a Grammy doesn't matter, then so be it.
Yep.
Like, good for him.
I like that take. I like the boycott take. I wish we knew more about what it is, because I would like if he was using this platform for a boycott for something important. You know, like he was like the fucking shit with China, but like something that was close to him, like it was police brutality or something that he was taking a stand and maybe they were involved and he's saying, I don't want that award because I'm going to stick up for this and I'm going to sacrifice it for the better good. I'd like to know what it is. It's not something stupid. Like,
is he trying to get maybe the voting for the Grammys to change, like push for a different method? Like how it's not the listeners that are determining it. It's
my interpretation is he hates the whole process as a whole. It's the fact that we're judging that somebody else's art is greater than somebody else's art.
But why now? He's probably received Grammys or been nominated multiple times before. Why now?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it could just be this is a weak answer, but it could just be because he only got 2 nominations this time as opposed to like the 8 he got a couple of years ago.
Do we know, is it anything like what Dan's kind of getting with the judging? I don't know which award it is because I don't,
Best
know me, I don't
rap
follow.
Song and
well, not that, but award show, I should have said, not award. I don't follow them as closely, but I know it's always been a big deal where there wasn't people of color that were on the panels. Or
representation.
Yeah. So is it maybe something like that where there's not people of color who are a part of the panel that are involved in this and he's taking a stand against that?
It can't be for rap because that's all there is. I mean,
well, but who makes, I don't know how it works. Who votes on?
Oh, you're
winner?
saying the voters themselves. So basically the Oscar debate.
Exactly.
Like,
yes,
we need more representation in the Oscar debate. Yeah, could be. And that could have a spoon into this argument too, in terms of that motivated him. He saw what happened in Hollywood. Now they're up to, I think, a 30% of the voting rights, which still isn't a lot, but maybe inspired his
like
change.
That there's not a representation in the actual Grammys, not obviously the music, because we know that they're the artists that are being represented, but maybe the panel is all white people, or it's not people that represent them, and that they don't feel like their music should be judged by a panel of white people who probably don't associate with it. You know,
here's another question I have. Does this put pressure on the other artists to say like, hey, if we all stood together and, did this and, you walk too, then they'd have no choice.
I was thinking setting a precedent.
Yeah, that word seems to keep
Callback,
coming up.
Like a
callbacks.
callback.
Yeah, I think there's going to be more artists that might take that stand with him. He's close with a lot of musicians. So,
Do you know who else was nominated within the same category as
I
him?
don't. No, I don't.
I'd be curious to see if they walk. I think it puts pressure on it, but I don't know. I think that kind of puts an unfair pressure on them because his stance, it might not affect someone else. If this was like to a level like we're taking a stand against police brutality against people of color or something, okay, I would imagine other people are going to get involved with that. But if he doesn't like the judging process with the Grammys, I don't think that, let's just say it's Nicki Minaj is in the same category, that she should have to pull out because Drake doesn't like the way that it's judged. I guess we really need to know more about what the issue is. But I do think, yeah, it probably puts pressure on them.
That would be the first documented time that Nicki Minaj has ever pulled out.
Jesus. Hey, she's like the new face of Playboy. Something.
Yeah, I saw that.
Pretty interesting. She's gonna
no, Cardi B.
Oh, is it Cardi B?
It is Cardi B. Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah, because I actually respect Nicki Minaj. I don't respect Cardi B.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just thought that was interesting.
It's a big deal, though.
To me, he's putting his money where his mouth is. He's walking the walk. That's not an easy thing to walk away from. Even as big as Drake is at this point in his career, you don't walk away from a Grammy. Like that's to people in the music industry. That is the be all end all. And after this, you might not ever get another one again. He clearly doesn't care, but it does. It hinders the accolades of his artist perception.
Right.
So
interesting.
Ryan, you've got another story for us. I'm not even gonna try to tackle what that's about. Go ahead.
Oh boy. Yeah. Astroworld. So we've talked about it we talked about it on an episode shortly after Astroworld. That's the Travis Scott concert event that he put on, where we've had, unfortunately, several people pass away. It was mishandled, just in the concert itself. So apparently there's a lawsuit which was pending, which by no surprise, people passed away in a manner that shouldn't have happened and could have been handled better. So this lawsuit has taken place, and apparently it's by a pretty well-known person. He was involved with the cases that took place after the BP oil rig issue happened. He's defended some high-profile cases where there was large amount of people involved in like an unjust cause of death. At this point, we're up to $10 billion in reparations. That's about I think his party of people was a little over 1,000 people. So 1,000 people divided by $10 billion, a large amount of money he's looking to get for them. Yeah. And the list of people that they're holding responsible for is everyone. I mean, they're holding a lawsuit against Travis Scott directly, Live Nation, the venue itself. So they're holding no bar as far as who they're holding accountable. And he's seeking action to, get these people justice and look to have this not happen again. He said that he feels very confident in the story because he himself, apparently, before he does what he does now, he actually was a concert promoter or whatever. He did what Astroworld does. Like, he used to be in charge of putting on these big events,
so he can probably spot the flaws.
He knows how it should work and what could have been done differently. Yeah. So he feels very strongly that he is going to be able to represent the victims and get them, not that money fixes it, but at least find them some justice and hope to prevent this from happening in the future. Well, any take you guys have on?
What do you think about the amount?
I see. We've talked. What did we talk about that on here before? We talked about how we determine the value of life. Yeah. It was the movie.
Yeah, that
what's that movie? The 9/11 movie.
Truth? Worth. Yeah.
So we talked about this because did you ever see Worth? Dude, very good movie. Go watch Worth. What was it on? Do you remember?
Netflix.
Netflix. Yeah. You should watch it. You should watch Worth. And we talked about this exact thing because of that movie. So true story, based on 9/11. Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
Michael Keaton's job was to figure out what the lives of the victims of 9/11 were worth.
A real life,
like
character
in
too.
Real life, yeah. Real story. And that's a great question. 10 billion over 1,000 people. What does that equal? I don't know. But how do you determine the value? of that. I mean, you can't, how do you put a dollar amount on these people's lives? And Michael Keaton, or this real life character, had to battle that in this movie. And you see the internal struggle of the realization he comes to in that movie, that like he was trying to work for this big corporation and save them money, but
Formulas,
then, but then you realize like everybody's different, and everyone's life should be valued the same, not based on your financial status prior to death.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's a good question, Dan. I don't know
So
how.
it's 10 million
a piece
per
person,
which
is a lot of money. But again,
and that's enough to shut me up.
It's, I mean, that's a lot. Honestly, it's more than I expected.
So these 1,000 people, were they the injured? Were they because there's only 10 people?
It was like, let me see if I can find it real quick.
8 or 10 people that passed away. I can't,
So
eight
it's
people that passed away, right?
We're up to 8 now. I knew it was 6 last time.
So
8 people passed away.
So it's people, it's victims of the families who had people pass away and injured. It says that bringing the total number of plaintiffs in relation to the 10 deaths and 300 injuries at the event to nearly 2,800, and he's handling 1,500 of the cases.
Wow.
So
it's a lot of paperwork.
Is that 10 million? Should 10 million go to somebody that broke their leg?
As opposed to death.
As to the father who lost his 6-year-old kid.
That's what Keaton's character did in the movie.
Yeah.
He was talking about a formula for everything.
And
it's like,
this is vague. It doesn't break it down for us. I would hope.
I mean,
that to your point, that's not how it's going to work out. That it's not going to just be like, okay, 1,000 people, we're just going to divide it evenly. I hope that they look at it on a.
Because I watched that special that's on Hulu.
Yes.
I watched that. It was Astroworld Concert from Hell or something like that.
That's what you were talking about.
Yeah. And like between the ages of 6 and 27 were the people who lost their lives. I mean, very young people, lots that they could offer to the world down the road if they had survived.
That 6-year-old still fucks me up.
Yeah,
Man.
that's awful. I just don't understand the 1,000 people. I can understand if it's a smaller group.
Yeah.
Because most people were there. They had a good time. Majority of the people that were at that concert went home not knowing what happened.
Yeah.
So
he's probably because it does say here initially his initial representation was the injured parties, and now it's blown up. So other people are probably coming forward to join the lawsuit and say as witnesses, this was handled improperly. Security was bad. The situation
just trying to get a piece of the pie. That's what those people are.
Yeah, like if you're not hurt, I think killed or injured. That's it.
Killed or injured.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they might be able to. They might come on as witnesses and help the case, but maybe they don't. Maybe they don't get much of anything. Maybe they're just here to. Hopefully, they're backing what happened to the actual people that were injured and the deaths, and they're just coming on as. Kind of class action, like we're here to stand with them as well to take down Apple, and Drake was in here as well. As one of the people that's being.
Yeah, he was on stage. So in that episode or in that show,
this you should tell. This is interesting.
Yeah. I talked to Chris about it the other day, but so once the CPR, like it got crazy. It started out just like a normal concert, and then people started packing in by the stage, and this is. Not the concert. It's not Live Nation's fault. It's the people that were there trying to get as close as possible. Those were the ones that started
cramming in
and shoving forward. There's no respect for space or other people's lives as they're going. But once the show started, Travis Scott started playing. Things got really crazy. People started to call out for help because it got so cramped where they couldn't breathe. They're trying to get out to the edges to get to leap outside the fences to catch some air. Once CPR was administered the first time, the Dallas, I think it was Dallas police.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
They went to the promoters and anybody that could get to the soundstage and told them CPR has been administered. We need to end the show early. We need to end the show because once that happens, nothing else matters.
Yeah.
That was announced to them at what I saw in the thing. I believe it was 9:45. They were planning on taking the show way later than what it was.
Mhm.
But at 10 o'clock, things got real crazy again because Drake was a special guest at this concert, and he hopped up on stage at 10 o'clock. So things started to get crazy again.
Mhm.
And people arms up in the air, starting to get more cramped, compact, can't breathe, causing more problems. Show, from what I saw, I think, if I'm remembering the timeline correctly, I believe it was 10:15 is when they ended the show.
Mhm.
So it was a half an hour. If you're unconscious for a half an hour, you're borderline brain dead.
Oh yeah.
So that was way too long. Another thing that came about in that was they were having a hard time designating paramedics and emergency response team for the city. It's a big city. I think they said 80 or 90% of the ambulances and the first response team was at Astroworld.
Wow.
Trying to get that in order. So
Not prepared, man. They
the
weren't prepared
city
for a
wasn't
situation like
prepared.
that. Yeah, they weren't prepared for a situation
And
like
this
that.
this isn't the first time Astroworld has been in Houston.
Oh
Houston,
yeah,
not
yeah,
Dallas.
Astro, duh.
Houston. This is probably the third or fourth year that they've run an Astroworld concert.
Mhm.
So like they just didn't expect this volume of people. And there's people without tickets that barged through security. They were going through the COVID checkpoint just to bypass, like they're just bypassing everything and getting in.
Yeah.
Sad thing is, you talk about just a second ago, Drake taking a stand against the Grammys and everything, but then you got this guy going on stage when there's people fucking in the crowd dying.
Right.
It was more concerned about performing for 10 minutes than them calling the show.
Yeah.
And him saying, I'm not going to perform. This is more important.
And there was
Sad.
some concert goers that said somebody passed out. They got up on one of the camera towers and was trying to tell them radio, because they couldn't see anybody. There was no security around that they could talk to, that they could holler at, couldn't get to anybody, but they were able to crawl their way, squeeze their way up to this camera tower, asking them, you need to call somebody, you need to tell somebody to stop the show. People are dying out here. And he turns around, he's like, that's not my job. So
It's awful, man.
Wow.
it's not his job. It's not his responsibility. You need to call the medic. You need to go to the medical tent. You need to do that. I can't do that. So it's like we talked in the last episode, or when we talked about the story, how there was radio breakdown.
Yeah.
And that could have been, that wasn't brought up in this show that I watched,
Mhm.
but that could have been the guy maybe had the ability to, but didn't have the comms to do it.
Just so many like elements that make the perfect storm for this,
Just
this
too many people.
afternoon and evening of madness to me.
This guy's looking, the guy, the attorney, is saying that he's looking for outside of just representing the case and these people, he's looking for actual
Changes.
like legislative changes
Oh.
to prevent this from happening.
See? And that's what I said when we were first talking about it. I said, you can only get hit by that baseball one time. Now there's a net around the whole field.
Yeah. So he's looking for preventative measures to have better things in place lined up for the amount of people. Maybe per so many people, you have to have so many ambulances available. And if that city's got to bring in ones from other counties to help, then they have to do that. But they've got to take the action to prevent this from happening again, you know? So he's working to actually get, because again, he used to be a show promoter or whatever. He knows the logistics, and he's going to use that to try and help implement some sort of change into this site going forward, which is a big deal.
Yeah. So they also, like, that concert wasn't going on until 9 o'clock at night, 8 or 9 o'clock at night. People were showing up 11 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning.
Tailgating.
Exactly.
Yep.
They weren't, it was a hot day in Houston.
Yeah.
It was not a cool day.
Liquored up.
They were dehydrated. I mean, that led to some of the deaths was dehydration,
Mm-hmm.
and people getting injured, dehydration. They weren't taking care of themselves.
Yep.
It's like that I feel like crap right now, but that next song is going to pump me up. I'm a hero for one day, like for just get through this next 5 minutes. I'll be fine. And then you black out, you pass out. I mean, that's what a lot of those people had felt. And like I said, most of the people went home not knowing that anything was going on.
Yeah.
that there were people dying. They had no clue because those deaths, those people passing out, it was basically just constricted to that.
I mean, when you got
surrounding
40,000
area
people, you're not gonna. I don't expect that everyone there knows what's happening. You know,
No.
unless they
There's a-
clearly make an announcement about it and stop the show like they could have, or
Like they knew of.
speculated that they should have.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't know
yeah,
that.
Houston PD said 9:45 is when they told somebody they need to stop the show.
A half hour
10:15
is a long time.
10:15 is when it finally stopped.
That's a long
You,
time.
you brought up something that I wanted to add to our initial conversation on this. So you mentioned that people were breaking in, they were getting through the COVID checkpoints and all that. So you're somebody in the audience, we'll say, you know, and we'll say because of this event, because the screenings were overlooked and all that, you got COVID as a result of this. Are you entitled into that lawsuit too? Do you think you're one of those injured and killed people?
I mean,
I
what if you got COVID and died?
But but that's what I'm saying too.
Yeah.
So even if you didn't die, you got COVID and you had to miss work for 2 weeks because of that.
Yeah.
Are you included in that lawsuit?
I think so.
I don't know.
I think it's venue negligence.
Yeah.
They were not. You're putting on a show of this caliber. It's not the first one. It's not that they don't know what happens.
What
you
goes
need to
into
be
it,
set up and prepared. The second, like you said, there's a ton of people there early on. The second you start seeing people breaking through to break into the show, you got to figure out stopping it. you
Yeah,
know?
security guards were trying to grab as many people as they could as they're plowing through.
Yeah.
You can only get.
But you said on that show or something, there was like a minimal amount of security
There
compared
wasn't-
to the people.
there wasn't a lot of security, but like you go
have
to
be
a-
prepared.
you go to a theme park, you know, like you follow a process, you get in line to get in. And some areas it was like that. It was very orderly.
Yeah.
There's like a mad rush in the morning or whatever, people trying to get to the tents, the merch tables and stuff early to get that one show t-shirt, you know.
You
But
just gotta. I mean, you gotta look at it as the way it's set up, though. It's not a theme park. I mean, you got 40,000 people
they have
in
rides.
in an open field. I know, but 40,000 people in an open field. That's a mass of people. You ain't stopping that if you try. If you're not prepared.
It was more
appropriately.
spread out than you think. It wasn't
Yeah.
just right in front of the stage.
Yeah.
What's the name of that documentary?
Astroworld, I think Concert from Hell.
You can find it on Prime,
It's on Hulu.
Hulu. All right, well, I'm gonna check it out.
I think it's an ABC document
ABC News documentaries. Nice. I'm gonna check it out, and I hope our listeners will too, because it definitely sounds like it gives a different perspective on everything.
And I was wondering because it was a month after it actually happened. Like what details have come out?
Yeah.
But a lot of it was interviews from some of the father who lost his son.
Yeah, you told me that one. That's that one to me is the worst because you're so helpless against it. Like, not necessarily if you're awake, that's one thing by itself, but to be knocked out,
blacked out.
oh my God. And then you wake up and you find out your kid's dead.
Yeah.
Jesus.
A lot of they like we're talking with friends and family of the people who did pass away, and had some interviews that they pulled from news clips and stuff. They had some news anchors that were at the Astroworld Festival and kind of seen it firsthand.
Yeah.
So it was a good episode. It was about an hour long. So
check that out.
More to come, I guarantee it.
Oh, for sure.
I mean,
We haven't even broke the ice with that thing yet. I imagine. I mean, those lawsuits are going to be years.
I know you're going to do top 5 or top 10, maybe
5.
But one other thing I think is interesting, just because of the documentary, it just came up, reminded me. Did you see the new Netflix documentary that's coming out about that Thanksgiving couple?
Oh, with they invited
the grandma that accidentally texted a random family and invited them to Thanksgiving. It was a wrong number. And the family was like, oh, yeah, we'll come. And they came. And now for 6 years, they've been doing Thanksgiving together.
What?
Netflix is actually turning it into a movie.
I never heard of this.
Yeah, dude. That's wild.
Is it a family or is it just the one guy?
I thought it was like a guy and his girlfriend or something. But either way, like she invited this guy accidentally. And most people responded to the group's like wrong number. He was like, oh, yeah, I'll come. And like, and she was like, yeah, come. Like, even on after he said it was the wrong number, she said, still come. And he went.
They've been
and
doing
for 6 years.
Is this lady making the food?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, I'll be
yeah.
there.
Yeah, but I thought that
her
was
husband passed
wild.
away recently.
That was wild that Netflix is turning it into a movie.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
Got to be a comedy.
Yeah, I'm curious. Yeah, I mean that's just a feel good story. That's kind of a big deal. I mean, cool for them.
I've not heard of that. I'll have to look
Yeah, you
that
have to
up.
look it up. It's
Her husband
interesting.
passed away, and the guy came to the funeral and everything.
That's wild. What a cool story, though. I mean, you think about all of the random tech, like the fucking tech story I have with that random dude for that over a year now has been texting me.
You should have followed that
I
out.
got to invite him to Thanksgiving. Maybe we'll have a fucking Netflix show.
That's a movie by itself,
Oh
man.
my
Jesus God, that thing's been going on since the beginning of time.
Father's Day last year.
Oh,
All right, sir. Hit us with what else you got?
just the weekend top 5, and we're gonna finish it out here.
Let's do it.
All right, so weekend top 5 movies. Looking at it, a lot of what I predicted last week came true. But there's one movie that got kicked out of the top 5, and there's one brand new in the top 5. So that movie that is kicked out went from 5 to 6 is Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City. Made another $2.6 million, but dropped almost 50% from last week. 2,800 theaters, and after 2 weeks, it's sitting pretty at $13 million, just over that. For Resident Evil, I mean, considering there wasn't a lot of CG that went into this, there was some computer generation in it. But I feel like if they can make around $20 million by the time this is all said and done, I think they take that, they run with it, and they make a second movie for this franchise.
Anybody notable in that?
KS Scaladerio. If you know her from the Maze Runner movies,
Okay.
She's the chick in that movie.
Okay.
But other than that, no, not really. What's his name? The villain from the Rock movie Walking Tall, Neil McDonough.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. He's in it too. So yeah, that's outside of the top 5. We will talk a little later on what made it into the top 5 this week, though. But kicking us off at number 5 this week, down 1 spot from number 4 last week. $4 million in its intake, and that is Marvel's Eternals, still sitting on the countdown despite the word of mouth that has basically gotten the best of it. $156 million in 5 weeks. Sorry, it is nothing to balk at, man. This is, not only is it the highest grossing superhero movie of the year, it is currently sitting at the 3rd highest grossing movie domestically for the year.
That's wild, dude.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I watched it. It's been documented on this show. I watched it. I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was terrible like everybody says it was. But I think curiosity has gotten the best of people here. They have to see this movie that everybody's talking about. And that's why bad press is even good press when it comes to movies. Because if you have a film that people love shitty movies that they have to watch and they want to see how bad it is.
It's not often that a Marvel movie doesn't get seen.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it would have to have been like god awful, like hot dog water bad for people to not to see it. I mean, you put Marvel on it and it's a superhero movie, people are going to go and see it.
That's true.
It's that they've just done that with their name.
And
they've built that legacy for themselves.
It's outdone Shang-Chi. It's outdone Black
Wow.
Widow, so Eternals it's sitting there, man. And I think by the time it's all said and done, I looked at the charts today, looking at in the number 2 position. I think it has the ability, if it's still making $4 million by its 5th week here, I feel like it could probably be the 2nd highest selling movie of the year by the time it's all said and done.
Jeez.
What's number 1 right now?
What is it? Kong versus Godzilla.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's surprising.
Not to me.
No.
I mean, that's a movie event. That's a blockbuster
Yeah.
event. That's everybody wants to go see that. And it's PG-13, so it's friendly for everybody.
I mean, I had already forgot about it though.
13 or older.
Oh yeah, I
It's
did
the number
too.
1 gross. That's wild.
Yeah. Invading the top 5 this week, kicking off at number 4, showing you that Christian movies are nothing to be played with, and that is Christmas with the Chosen, The Messengers, making $4,100,000 in 1,700 theaters in its first week. And here's what's funny about this. So, aside from the fact that obviously it's a Christian movie and it made the top 5, but it's been documented on my reviews. These movies have their audiences. Fathom Events are what put this on. And to anybody who knows Fathom Events, that's a one night only thing. So in one night across the country, this thing made $4 million. That is impressive. That has to be a record for Christian movies.
Have you seen this?
No,
Are you reviewing
this? No, this was one just because usually when I review Christian movies, it's got to have like, this is more about you can almost say it's a documentary almost. It doesn't have a narrative to it. It's really just an educational lesson. Like, here's what we take from Christmas and this is what it should be and all that.
And it made that much money.
Dude, I'm telling you, I go to these movies often.
That's wild, bro.
The place is sold out. They bring buses of people in and like from churches and all that, and they see these movies. It is one of the worst audiences that I sit through in any given year.
That blows my mind, man.
Yeah. Number 4 though, that's a strong showing. Even if it makes half that next week, it's already got 6 million in its pocket.
Is it not a one-time thing?
Oh, that's right. It is Fathom. Never mind. Forget it.
Yeah, that's good.
But video sales, you got to think downloads.
Get out of here.
You know, it'll make some money.
Put that on your list of Christmas movies at the top.
It's gonna be my number 1.
You got to watch that or Clifford.
Or what? Go to hell. See you there.
Number 3 this week, still sticking in the top 3, made another $7 million in 3,400 theaters. That's House of Gucci. So obviously we knew that the popularity was, you know, going to influence the take on this one, and it has. It's not a good movie. It's what I would call my Eternals. As to everybody else says Eternals is garbage, I think this movie's garbage, but I understand it has an audience and people want to see this story. It lends itself to a movie, certainly. The story itself is very intriguing, but it's just the way they pull it off I felt was very weak.
I don't know why I have no appeal in seeing that. Like, there's not an ounce in me that's like, I want to go watch that movie.
Well, people love Gaga and they worship at her altar. So
I mean, I think she's great as an artist and everything. And like, I think she's a decent actress.
I think she should stick to music.
There's nothing in that story that I'm like amped up. I'm surprised that many people know the story or followed it. Was it even advertised that much? Like, I don't even know much about that movie, but there's nothing in me that wants to go see it.
It was advertised. I mean, it was because, you know, Jared Leto was in the face paint, like the mask and the makeup and prosthetics and all that. So people said, oh man, this is bleeding Oscar here. Like,
that's wild.
This is
no chance.
I think she'll get a nomination for it, but I don't, maybe makeup. I could see makeup and prosthetics, maybe get it. That's it though.
You gonna see it?
No.
I
mean,
that was a blunt answer
there.
If it comes on like a streaming service, I'll probably watch it, but I'm not going to pay money to go see it.
It's almost 2.5 hours long, man.
Definitely not now. I mean, it's
for that movie, like that story. It's just
like I won't even walk into a Gucci store because I can't afford any of it.
Gucci. That's got almost $34 million in
3 weeks,
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
So it's doing solid. I mean, it definitely made back its budget and then some. So congratulations to House of Gucci. I think it spends one more week on the top 5. Looking at the prognosis coming on, you know, this coming week, we have West Side Story coming up, that's going to be the big take this week. It's Spielberg. People love musicals. They're going to see this in droves. Beyond that, it's all a bunch of independent films, which won't make the top 5. So I think West Side Story will be the new number 1 after this weekend. But I would look for House of Gucci to maintain its 4 or 5 stronghold there. Coming in at number 2 this week, it was number 2 last week, and that's Ghostbusters Afterlife. Another $10 million, 300,000 to its already $102 million intake. This movie in just 3 weeks is sweeping the country up in a hailstorm, and suddenly Ghostbusters is back with a vengeance, baby.
Bro,
stay puffed.
Yeah, dude, it was fun. it was definitely a fun movie. I contributed to that millions, and
not yet.
I thoroughly enjoyed it, man.
Since you guys saw it, I want to touch on that a little bit. What did you find so enjoyable about it?
It's Ghostbusters, man. It's Ghostbusters are back, baby.
Right. But I couldn't just say it's Haley Steinfeld when I was talking about Hawkeye. What was your...
I think they did a good job with the continuation story. You know, most of the time I don't look forward to any kind of like sequels or continuations so far after the fact. Not necessarily just a continuation or like a series, but when it's this long after, I'm like, this is going to be fucking awful. I think they set it up well to carry on the legacy. It was fun, you know, like the comedy aspect of it was really well done. Great homage to Egon, you know, with the actual actor passing away several years ago at this point. 2014?
Yeah, I think it was 14 or 15.
And they've set it up for there to be more. You know, they cast it well. I liked the way that they told the story. I had a really good time watching it. And I think I'm ready for more Ghostbusters. I'd be totally okay with them doing like another trilogy. You know, like they had Jurassic Park, and then so many years later they did the Jurassic World, which I know many people hated.
Yep.
But I enjoyed that trilogy, and I think that if we get a Ghostbusters like that, that will be cool. They obviously set it up that way with the way it ends, without giving too much away. But I loved it. Dan, you seem to enjoy it as well.
I liked it. Yeah. I just, with that gap, I think they tied it back to that extremely well.
Yeah.
Like the story of how they came to this house and all that stuff. Just it worked. They did a good job telling it.
Believable.
And then the reason for being out there is even better. Like it just progressively got good.
Yeah.
And it was enjoyable.
Yeah, there's a lot of meaning and sentimentality to it, certainly on a family level, but also on an emotional one too. You know, we grew up with a lot of these characters, you know, the Ghostbusters themselves. So I feel like as much as the on-screen translation of this being a family story is permeating before our eyes, it's very much the way we are attached to this franchise and the familiarity of it all that plays through in every shot.
Yeah.
You know, and like there's a lot of fan service in it, but I feel like a lot of it's done respectfully, that, you know, it's not using it as a crutch for the movie itself. I love the cameos, you know, as you alluded to. I feel like the 2 post-credit scenes are awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I feel like, and they lend themselves to possibly more movies for sure. And at $102 million, I don't see why not.
Right. One of the points I was going to make, and you touched on it with the fan service, I don't think they overdid it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you're going to
make they did, I think
when you're going to do a Ghostbusters property, you can't not touch on or reflect on the originals.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the parts that they really included from the original, the movie wasn't heavily based on the necessity of those. You know, like you could have done it without, to an extent. Like you have to have throwbacks. Could you have not had the cameos? Yeah. Would it have been as meaningful? I know I'm saying, but would it have been as meaningful? No.
Yeah.
So I think that they did a good job with what they touched on, you know, because you had to tie that story together. Like Dan, I think with it being so long after, I mean, it's got to have been 30 years later.
Are you talking the first Ghostbusters or the second?
From where they picked up the story, it's have to have been
not be second, so that's 89.
Yeah.
So that would be 32 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, for that long later to have a way to tie it back, I think they did a great job.
And the story, like, it was believable as to why this gap.
Yeah.
Now that we've all 3 of us seen it, I'm curious what you thought was overdone for fan service.
That final fight scene to me. So like
all 4 of them.
So no. So specifically, they go on top of, is it like a pyramid or whatever the hell that is, when they meet Zool, like so that whole scene is the exact same scene from the 1984 movie, and it's so unnecessary. Honestly, had you cut from when they're in the mines themselves to back at the farmhouse, like we got to get back to the farmhouse fast, and then played that ending that they did there at the end, perfect. There's nothing I could bitch about there.
Right.
You did the exact movie with the exact movements. I mean, dude, I went back and watched the original Ghostbusters afterwards, and I was like, he got zapped there.
That's fair.
She got zapped there. And then I'm like, wow, somebody's going to make a side by side of this.
Right.
That's where I feel like fan service can serve a purpose, in an ample one too.
Yeah.
But I feel like when you're recreating scenes, it's almost like you're diminishing the power of your creativity.
Yeah.
And this movie is very creative. It has a lot of ways to work in beautiful elements of its own that I feel like aged the franchise naturally and gracefully. So I wish that, you know, they would have stuck more to their own guns of originality. But that one scene to me, I was like, okay, now I've reached that level. Like I knew that the 3 were coming. I didn't care about that. I knew, and I even predicted when they were coming. I said they're going to save them at the end of this thing. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Sure enough, there it is. But yeah, I don't care. Like, we're obviously going to see the car. It's an element of this. If they're going to become the Ghostbusters, the car has to be there. If they drove a Chevy, I would be fucking pissed.
Right.
But yeah, so like that's what I mean when I say fan service. I'm like, man, you're recreating the same shit that's
mostly when
they
save the mom is what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's that exact scene. I couldn't believe that was Olivia Wilde too that played Zool. That's crazy.
Didn't look anything like her.
Yeah, great makeup there.
I that was actually one of my least favorites. was the way that they did her outfit. She looked very White Walker Game of Thrones to me. I didn't love the way that they dressed her, but I can see that. I guess my only thing is how do you obviously they would have had to write something different to save her to then be able to continue the story back at the farm, which I'm sure they could have done. I don't know if it was I mean, obviously it was intentional that they filmed it the same way, but what their reasoning behind that was, you know, did they want to have that very intentional throwback to the original, or was it just a lapse of poor writing, you know, on how are we going to allow her to escape so then we can bring her to the farm and use her to lure him in, you know, to lure Gozer and Zool there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I see that though. Outside of that, I think they did a good job with it. I loved it. I thought it was great.
I agree.
Phoebe's character, Phoebe, just the dry, the jokes that she presented, like I couldn't stop laughing.
And that's what I said last week when I said, so the main argument against the 2016 Ghostbusters is that, well, it's because they're women, that's the reason why a lot of guys don't like it. I'm like, no, the best character in this movie is a girl. It's a little girl and she's fucking awesome.
Bro, do you know who all I could think about when I stared at her the whole movie was she looked exactly like Egon.
Yeah.
But she looked like you took now I'm not going to remember. Millie Bobby Brown and the kid from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the little boy.
Oh, Nick Zielinski.
All I kept fucking thinking about every time I looked at her.
She does have a Nick Zielinski thing. And McKenna Grace doesn't look anything like that. The actress that plays her, like she's a blonde.
It's the hair, man.
Yeah, like they totally changed her hair
right over.
Looked just like Egon. They did a good job.
Yeah,
like that being like in relation or bloodline to him. It was great.
Yeah, it was good. I agree. It was it definitely felt like a spiritual successor to the original movies for sure.
You want to know what irritated me the most about that movie? How well stocked that Walmart was.
I know, right? Get the fuck out of here, dude. Well, and you got to think, I mean, even more so, this movie was done before the pandemic ever started. So like technically we're getting it about 2 years too late as it is. And so now we can watch it. And it's even crazier.
Which is interesting to think about because the 2021 on it. And we're just now seeing it and we should have.
Well, there's definitely reshoots. I'm trying to remember. There's one scene where I'm like, yeah, they had to change that because they make a joke of pop culture. And I'm like, that happened in 2021. So I'm like, they had
to re-edited.
They had to do a reshoot there. Yeah.
Good movie. What did you give it?
7 out of 10.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I thought it was solid.
Number one,
once again this week, Encanto, Disney's Encanto. So for a movie that I thought was the worst marketed movie of the year, another $13 million to its $58 million purse in 2 weeks is solid. This movie, I enjoyed the hell out of it. I loved it. But I think now finally word of mouth is getting across the nation that, hey, there's a new Disney movie that came out Thanksgiving weekend. You know, let's take the kids and go see it. I also found out it's not going to be on Disney Plus until a month into its release. So that's going to help its purse a lot more.
Yeah.
It's a good movie. Like I have no problem with this being number one. Definitely Ghostbusters had its time there for a week or two and Encanto came out after it. So it's only natural this is going to happen. It's the newer movie. I feel like its time is going to come to an end next week though with West Side Story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else do we have? We're nearing Christmas. There's some other big movies that are supposed to be coming out, right?
Movie. Well, obviously Spider-Man. That's the big one. Nightmare Alley is coming out with Bradley Cooper and an array of an ensemble there. We've got that big Netflix one with Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, and all of them. Don't Look Up.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Yeah, we've got a ton of good movies still to come out. Spider-Man's obviously the big one next week.
Yeah, there was a couple we saw previews for. That are dropping early next year, and I was really surprised by the time that they're coming. Morbius, for one,
it's
dropping
January.
real early on, and we always talk about that not being a great movie.
They have no faith in that movie,
and I'm surprised. I mean, are you? I'm looking forward. No, I'm looking forward to it. I love Jared Leto, and I think it looks pretty decent. And I saw the release time, and I was like, oh shit. I mean, we talked about Scream obviously before, but Morbius was an early one, and there was one other one, and I'm like, oh man, those are bad release dates.
Yeah, Scream's another one where I'm like, I watched the trailer and I was interested in it, but like once they said January, I was like, fuck me then. Like that's to me like it's very rare you get a good January movie, and when it happens, it's usually more so an Oscar holdover that didn't come to your town for a month after its release.
Was that Sing 2?
Oh, Sing 2's coming. Sing wasn't bad actually.
Yeah, Sing
I didn't
2.
mind
Sing
Sing.
2.
That was a big, like, that trailer was like, it felt massive.
Yeah.
So
I saw that early. Yeah, I keep forgetting that that's coming out. I think next week too, because
Yeah.
I saw
this is a big build up
2
for
weeks
this
ago.
movie.
Yeah, it was. I actually liked it more than the first one.
The first one was good.
The first one was pretty good. This one I thought was better because it expanded on the story. It wasn't just them performing songs. Like
Yeah.
there was actually a story to it.
Yeah. Interesting. I know Christmas usually there's some decent movies that come out. And then when we were at Ghostbusters, I saw some trailers and I was like, man, those are not
Matrix.
great release times, you know.
Yeah.
Matrix, yeah.
Yep.
But that's coming out on HBO
Yeah.
Max
I'll
too.
see it in the theaters. I'm not watching that shit on a small screen.
Yeah.
Make sure you watch the new Home Alone though, Ryan.
I saw it.
Oh, you did?
It was absolutely awful.
Sweet.
I watched maybe 45% of it and turned it off.
Hmm.
I turned it on like I shouldn't even for that. It's a poor excuse on why I turned it on. But I was like, I was working and I just needed something on, and I had just watched, and it was like the watch next, and you know, it just like shows you like 3 different movies, and I just let it play through, and it started, and I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna watch it, bro. That shit is absolutely awful,
Just promise the kid McDonald did not deliver.
bro. And that wasn't even like watching it, and I could tell how awful it was. That's a fucking joke, man. Fuck that.
And if you would have watched it through, you'd have realized you care for the burglars, if anyone. Like you care for the guys who are supposed to be the bad guys. You want this little shit to eat it
The
bad.
kid was annoying as fuck.
Yeah.
I didn't like that they were like British in it or something.
Yeah,
It
he was
fucking stupid.
Archie Yates.
I hated it. Did you see it?
No.
Oh,
We should make Dan watch it.
terrible.
Strap me to the chair.
Terrible.
What other trailer was in that? I'm trying to remember now.
We saw quite a few trailers. Scream played, Morbius played, Sing 2 played.
I think which one I've been getting a lot for.
There was a couple other ones that we saw, and I was like, oh, it looks good. But time-wise, I was like, man, because there was one that was February. And I was like, it's getting a little bit later, but that's still pretty early on for a decently, because the movies all looked fairly decent, the ones that were dropping. I can't remember now. But yeah, it was good. Ghostbusters was great. Do we know if there's do you have any insight? Is there as far as more?
Another movie?
I mean, they obviously set it up to that there can be.
They haven't greenlit anything yet, but like if I'm a betting man, I would say absolutely. Between this and the $102 million purse, I'm like, dude,
Yeah, why
you
not?
have
They
to
have
capitalize
to,
while
yeah.
the iron's hot.
Yeah.
You know?
It's set up. I mean, again, where do you go with it? But they set it up to be able to do it, obviously. I mean, just with the way it ends with the firehouse and everything. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to find out why Winston's rich. You know?
That's true. That's true.
So
Good movie. I think that's all we got for you folks. We'll be back next week. What are we looking at Christmas-wise time? We're nearing Christmas, so we'll probably have a break here. We'll just have to figure out our scheduling leading up to Christmas here in a couple weeks. Or I think Hanukkah just ended, so happy late Hanukkah to anyone that celebrates that.
Chanukah.
But yeah, we'll be back with another one. Like, share, subscribe, all that stuff that you're gonna hear just in a second when I hit the outro button. But do it anyways. You know, if you hear it twice, maybe you'll actually do it. So thanks
It's
for tuning
easy.
in, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Like me.
Thanks for tuning in, y'all. That is Made to Motivate Podcast. Make sure you tune into the show every week. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell on YouTube so you know when the new videos launch. And check out our pages individually if you can. We appreciate the support. At Jesse Yonk SI on Twitter. Chris, the Film Freak Kessinger. Check out the Film Freak Review page on Facebook. And I am Ryan Weiss. You can check out rockeverywhereinc.etsy.com to follow my art and apparel page. We appreciate the support. And of course, at Made to Motivate Podcast on all social media sites. Thanks again, and we'll check you next week.